Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Da, 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 drum roll. Blah, blah, blah. It is March Madness. It's here. We have a bracket. We are ready to talk hoops. It's the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast, the March Madness Marathon episode. If you are new to the program, we are thrilled to have you. This is our favorite episode of the year. We talk through all 32 first round games. Well, 36 if you want to get some thoughts on the first four, which we will. It's Monday night before the games tip on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll give you some thoughts there. We are skipping everything else. There's no Roots Roundup. There's no news section. There's no we've saw that. Sorry, Big Ten title game. We treat you like the committee treats you. We ignore it. And we get right into the first round. Kai, Matthew is taking care of young Weavestress, the daughter
Yes.
Weave. How are you feeling? We've got our spinny hats on. It's showtime, baby.
Yeah, convenient excuse having a daughter. Yeah, Jim, we're doing good. Can't wait to talk ball, talking every single game. I'm going to do my best to timestamp every single game for your listening and reviewing pleasure, and also keep track of the rundown, too. I got 4 rundowns ready to go. I'm excited. I'm not the best producer, Jim, but darn it, I try a little bit.
You are the producer that we have, Kai. So technically,
Exactly.
you are the best producer here.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind. That's right. So Kai and I, right off the bat here, we'll get Matt in a second once he is ready to rock. I'm Jim Root. I'm not sure if I even said that yet. I'm too excited to talk ball. I will give a quick shout out to Jay Petty, Joey Paskov, our wonderful producer, the producer of the sounds of the opening song. But folks, man, it's all about the games. It's all about the game. Subscribe to the pod on iTunes, SoundCloud, Amazon, Spotify, wherever it is. Subscribe on YouTube, where we are live right now, interacting with the chat right now. A very generous chat today, Kai. They're feeling the March spirit
It's very
today.
nice.
I
We
love
really
to see
appreciate
that.
that. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes. Love interacting. We'll try to answer the questions that you come up with there, but we will be going game by game, so we'll try to get to everything. Typically goes about 2 hours, so strap in. Don't listen at 1.5x. Let us really just wash over you as you're on your flight to Vegas or whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, Kai, that's basically it. That's the intro. Join the Burner Ball. Quick plug for that. The Discord that we run with Trilly Donovan. We are in there talking games. We've already given some betting thoughts in there already, so people have some prep on that. But this is where you go to get everything here on the pod. All right, Kai, let's get into it. First region. Do we want to plug CV Analytics first, or is that after the first
Let's
region?
do one after each. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll do it after.
Love that. We'll do it live. Okay, then we're starting in the South. We are clockwise, folks. We're going to follow the order of the bracket as the committee unveiled it, with Auburn's region, the South, in Atlanta, tipping off Kai in the opening round games in Lexington. In Lexington, Gus Johnson voice. I wish it was still Kentucky's court design instead of the generic
Yeah, for the
one
plaid.
NCAA, one size fits all. Yeah. But we got Auburn against the winner of Alabama and St. Francis. We've got the first game of the round of 64, Louisville and Creighton tipping off early on Thursday afternoon. The game I always get wrong. I remember it was like Louisville, Minnesota one year. Last year was Mississippi State, Michigan State. Got that wrong. Let's start with Auburn, Alabama, St. Francis. Kai, I wrote an Action Network preview for Alabama State, St. Francis.
Oh, good.
St. Francis is bad, and that's, unsurprising. They're outside the top 300. But hey, the last 16 seed outside the top 300 was Fairleigh Dickinson, and they beat Purdue in the opening round. So that does not mean they're immune from a big victory. However, I think they fall to Alabama State in the first round. Both teams not great, or they both press is really the idea. They want to force turnovers, and one of them's really bad against the press. That would be St. Francis. And Alabama State's fantastic. They're top 5 in the country in turnover rate. I looked back, they're the first team in the SWAC inside the top 100 for turnover rate in like a decade.
Oh, you mean offensively?
Offensive, yes. Every
Yes, that
SWAC
is
team
shocking.
coughs it up. And suddenly we've got this really big outlier here because they play 3-point guards, including the coach's son,
Mhm.
TJ Madlock. I trust Alabama State a little more. They're playing really well down the stretch, high up in Haslametrics momentum metric. So I'm riding with the Hornets in the opening round game there to face Auburn.
I am too, man. You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, SFU sucks against the press this year, and that's a problem. They're a jump shooting team. They're not dynamic. Alabama State, a lot more athletic. St. Francis also gets killed at the rim. Alabama State will attack. They're not efficient, but they will attack. They also brought back a ton from last year. Like you said, they don't turn it over. Good backcourt. I do like the Hornets, Jim, in the play-in game. The pig.
The pig, oink oink. Yeah, it also they're one of like the Shoot, where was I going with that? I forgot. Oh, with continuity. They're one of the most continuity. They have one of the most continuous minutes from
Continuous.
previous year for a
Yes.
SWAC team in
Ever.
recent history as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, typically those teams really turn over a bunch. Alabama State has sort of hung with top competition. They were close with LSU for a while. They were close with Missouri on the road, close-ish, 15-ish point game. St. Francis has been mega blasted by everybody they've played that's up a level. So they're going to be no competition, I don't think, here. Matt, any thoughts on anybody in that pod? Auburn, St. Francis, Alabama State.
Love the Madlock, man. Here's my issue though, fellas. I feel like every year we always pick the team in the play-in that's like more deserving to be there, and we discount the team that feels like it was a fluke, and that team sort of plays randomly better. I feel like St. Francis is like the don't sleep on us team from that angle. I like the Madlock, man. I think the matchup points are strong. Just a good story, great story. Tony,
Yeah, I
Tony
wouldn't.
Jr.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a home run better in the playing games.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I'm
lose.
a losing better. After the Iona BYU game, where I don't know who did I bet the wrong side of that roller coaster
Oh
ride
yeah, I
once it
was
was
on
up
Iona.
30. Yeah.
Yeah,
After that game, and then like the Bobby Hurley experiences, I just like those aren't games I need to bet. So yeah, I stay away there.
but we will anyways.
But
And
we
then
probably will.
yeah, Auburn gonna roll through that.
Yes.
We don't know what the number will be. It will probably be over 30 if it's St. Francis. I mean, looking at where the Florida spreads are, and Auburn's right up there, and St. Francis is worse. Somewhere right around 30 if it's Alabama State. Tough to get a strong take. Louisville Creighton. Like I said, the first tip of the tournament. Matthias. A little bit surprised where Louisville's seated here. I had them up at a 5 in my bracket.
So
I
did
was
I.
stunned. I thought this was a bad sign for the ACC, and then North Carolina was revealed like a minute later. So very conflicting messages from the committee there. Creighton, big time drop coverage with Ryan Kalkbrenner. We know what that's all about. But Louisville's awesome with pick and roll ball handlers. Terrence Edwards, Chucky Hepburn, they're top 5 in the country in efficiency there. It's what Creighton kind of forces you to do. Matthew, the matchup's pushing me towards Louisville. Am I right? Am I wrong?
You're right, Louisville. I agree. Rain Smith back, good to go. Such a weapon, just both in half court and transition. I think Louisville's really pulled away from teams, and Creighton's not a team you can like kill shot because they're just so methodical and solid. You're not going to lose Rain Smith in the open floor, but if he gets loose for probably two or three, I think those are kind of like the momentum swingers that they missed when he was out. I agree with you. I like the matchup as well. I know like Kalkbrenner could dominate inside. I mean, they get James Scott in foul trouble early. Um, Kelsey's going to have to go like 5 out, just something wild to combat that because they have no other counter really for him
You,
up front. And then
you don't
my
want to see
X factor,
Frank Anselm eBay getting minutes.
not particularly. And I love Noah Waterman. I've been a Noah Waterman stan
Apologist.
since day zero. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Not apologist. I think that's just an outright defender. Look at his resume. He's been a winner. Except for Detroit Mercy, I guess not a winner there.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty big loser.
yeah, I like Louisville here, Jim. I agree. Matchup. Yeah, Call could go for 40 and 20. I think Kelsey's like, we'll let the rest of you beat us. We'll let Call get his.
I hope Louisville a lot of handoffs too, not just like straight up ball screens. I hope Creighton doesn't unnecessarily switch those. I know they drop, but let's just keep the guys going through. Keep standard, man. Don't drop. Just stick with them. Now Kelsey's smart. He'll throw screens in there. He knows what to do against Creighton's drop coverage. But Creighton on the defensive end, I think, is a perfect matchup for Louisville. Their transition defense is excellent. They actually do a great job of taking away the three because they can just funnel drivers into Kalkbrenner, who is the best defender in perhaps the country, definitely the Big East. Schematically, in my opinion, they're a terrific counter to Louisville's attack outside of the ball screen issue, which is an issue against every single team that plays Creighton, frankly. And the ball pressure is key to beating Creighton. You take away their threes. Excuse me, that's the Louisville side. Louisville can take away the threes, exert pressure, stay up on shooters, but I still like Creighton as a dog. I like the way they can run shooters off the line. I love Kalkbrenner. What's the spread? 4-ish? I should be having these spreads up.
2.5.
2.5. If I have three, Creighton is a definite bet for me. Still leaning their way at 2.5.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, Kai. I always end up like the first big matchup point I find, Matthew, you were muted. The first big matchup point I end up latching onto it, and I need to be a little more open. But Louisville is one I'm on just because of I think Edwards and Hepburn can make plays in that kind of middle area going downhill towards the rim whenever Creighton gives them that empty space in the mid range. Next up, in the 5-12 game, another somewhat surprising reveal here, Michigan. who everybody thought would be higher up after winning the Big Ten title game. But reminder, that game simply does not matter
Doesn't
to
matter.
the committee. They are already popping champagne for being done with their job by the time it tips off. 5 seed Michigan takes on UC San Diego, who's been a little bit of a darling of the Weaves. Guys, is a very tight spread. Michigan only a 2.5 point favorite. There's some very clear matchup onuses to look at, matchup points. What's jumping out to you with this one?
Yeah, I got in early. I took UC San Diego. I think it's going to be a popular upset pick. 3.5, great bet. 2.5, still consider it. It's a top 40 team. It's one of the best 12 seeds ever. UC San Diego. I'm surprised they weren't given an 11. That's kind of splitting hairs, neither here nor there. Michigan's seed at 5 is frankly fine with me. They were a luck box most of the season. Yeah, they ran through the Big Ten tournament. That was really impressive. Kind of shoved the paper tiger narrative down my throat a little bit. I know Matthew will comment on that, but I still like UC San Diego. They're disciplined. They don't make mistakes. They take care of the ball, and they have a star in Tate Jones. He's a monster. And defensively, of course, everyone's going to point to this throughout the lead up to the game. UC San Diego's defense, number 2 in the country in forcing turnovers. That's been Michigan's kryptonite this season. 336 in turnover rate is impossible for a Power 5 team, even more impossible for a Big Ten team at a 5 seed in the tournament. That's wild. I think UC San Diego can force turnovers. And Matt, they also convincingly took down UC Irvine twice, a team that also has a bunch of big guys up front. They're not going to be intimidated by the size of Michigan.
I hate this matchup. It sucks. I like both teams. I'm the only defender of Michigan not being a fraud. I stand by that. By the way, only 8 turnovers in that title game against Wisconsin, only 3 against Purdue, 20 against Maryland. I think there's a key thing that underpins Michigan's turnover issues. I think when they play more athletic teams, it becomes more of a problem. Now, some of them are self-inflicted. I actually think this matchup against UC San Diego doesn't necessarily create like an abnormal new sense of like discomfort for them. I think if they turn it over, it'll be more self-inflicted stuff. But I just think the matchup uniqueness could actually work in Michigan's favor, if that makes sense, with Danny Wolf and the ability to kind of get in the middle of that crease of that zone and be like a trigger man, spray it around. It just pisses me off because it feels like this is the Murray State versus San Francisco. The committee threw 2 really good or through the good mid-major against a really, either a solid other mid-major, just a solid team that's probably undervalued seed-wise, which I think Michigan is. I hate this. I like Michigan here. It's like I've banged the UC San Diego drum all year. I just think the matchup's a little bit dicey, even though you can look at the turnover thing as a pretty obvious, like, wow, boom, strength versus weakness. I just think the way Michigan plays and the way they're designed with their bigs passing is not going to fall into like a 20 to 25 turnover trap that the Tritons have got some teams in the Big West into.
I'm like the opposite. I think they are going to turn it over 20 times. I think it's a like red alert problem where if you're playing through Wolf in the middle, he's like the most high risk, high reward passer in the sport. Like he will rack up 9 assists, but he can have a 7 turnover game rather easily. And I think the hands of someone like Hayden Gray digging down on Golden, kind of bothering Trey Donaldson if he's forced to make a bunch of plays. And they're not going to play zone 100% of the time. It's only 20% of the time for UC San Diego per synergy. So I think it'll be in Donaldson's hands some too, and their guards can get a little bit sloppy. I think UC San Diego also, I mean, just the fact that they don't turn it over offensively, like it's going to be probably a 7 turnover gap between the two. And the shooting that Michigan has, or that UC San Diego has over the top, call him Tyler Magai, my guy.
A guy Mackay.
He might not give total Golke vibes, but he can shoot 12 to 15 threes in a game, and he will not hesitate to do so. Makes 7 or 8, and suddenly people are really talking about him. I think they're able to go over the top enough. The zone can keep the big guys away from the rim a little bit, although Michigan could get some offensive rebounds here. And kind of the game this is reminiscent to me of is when Iowa won the Big Ten tournament, became a Final Four darling, 5 seed, and then they fall to Richmond in the first round. It's like it wasn't like the cute darling 12 seed, but it was like a 5 with a lot of momentum. And I think outside the college basketball nerd community, UC San Diego is not quite as respected.
How do you pronounce Tate Jones's first name?
Aniwa.
Aniwa will be a household name. He's the March Madness type of star that emerges in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's Magai's going to be if they go to the Sweet 16, I think the poster child for the run's Magai. I think I think it's a Golke catch fire run. He was cold in the Big West tournament. I think it's like a perfect bounce back, just get white hot from 3.
Unless you get like a big post game interview with Niwa and he's like got the
Yeah, it's
accent,
awesome.
and he says
Yeah.
something real down under, and people just fall in love with him. Like, oh man, this guy took
His
down Michigan.
tattoo, cool meaning, really bad execution. It just very lame. And we love our Tritons, Kai, but they're not a get off the bus team, are they? They're the antithesis
No.
of a get off the bus team.
Yeah.
All right. Also in that same little pod in Denver, a bunch of teams, quick turnaround. Michigan played Sunday, fly out to Denver. Yale played Sunday, fly out to Denver. They're taking on Yale. The Bulldogs are taking on Texas A&M in the 4:13 game. Boy, Matt, there's some matchup stuff that I kind of like for Yale. Like they rate out as a good defensive rebounding team, although they have not played a single top 70 offensive rebounding team all season. You go against number one, Texas A&M, that is a major switch. But I also think about 9 years ago, James Jones has a Yale team play monster offensive rebounding Baylor in the first round, and they held up okay. Rico Gathers, Chasen Boards, Torian Prince, Jonathan Motley, and they were still able to hold up. I think this Yale team can hold up too. They've got better shot makers. Bez Mbang's a three-time Ivy Defensive Player of the Year. You throw him at Wade Taylor as long as he stays out of foul trouble. I kind of like Yale, Matthew. Maybe I'm underrating the athletic advantages for the Aggies. What say you?
That's where I was concerned. I think I agree with everything you just said. I like Yale. We've shown that they've shown they can stand up against premier athletes. I think this goes back to the other side of the coin though. Is their advantage typically is that they're the more athletic Ivy team, and they have been bludgeoned by some good teams in the non-con. You just kind of go back to the last 3 years. There have been some where Yale was sort of outclassed. However, Kai, A&M is a favorite. I just them with expectations to beat teams by margin. I just don't trust that offense. We've talked about. I don't know how many times we've thrown shade at Zurich Phelps in our group chat for just how much he torpedoes their offensive flow. And Buzz sort of has the Dennis Gates fallacy where sometimes his rotations are just like, what
Hayden
are you doing?
Hefner. Hayden Hefner. Specifically.
Yeah, 30 minutes for it. Let's like, no. How about not? Jim, I thought the number was a little too light though. I feel like 7 is sort of I think 9 is like what it should be, frankly. I think 7 is like, do you think the matchup advantage is that strong for Yale? And I don't know. That's where I go back and forth, Kai.
No, it's Yale. Yale plus 7.5 is a bet for me. They're tough as an MFer. They beat Auburn last year. Auburn was a top 5 team last season and way more athletic than Yale. They beat them. They lost by 8 at Purdue this year. They lost by 3 at Minnesota. Beat Akron by 16. This team's really good. They can beat A&M. A&M, they're going to win the offensive rebounding battle, of course. It's how they score. It's iso ball, bully ball, volleyball. It's not fun to watch, but it's an elite rim defense, an elite paint defense, an elite defense, and an elite offensive rebounding team. That's A&M.
I think Buzz needs that on a sign in the gym, Kai.
Iso ball,
bully ball, volleyball.
Yeah.
Get that up there.
I think Yale can hang around. I love that they can handle the rock. That's really important against A&M. Maybe they don't get flustered. There's some really experienced guards that can bang on this team, and they can shoot the three. Their three-point attempt rate is low, but they have a lot of good shooters, and that's obviously a requisite to beat Texas A&M. So I think they hang around. Plus 7.5. That is a bet for Kai.
I can picture Nick Townsend, who's like, what is he, 26 of 51 from 3. So like high percentage in this matchup. You see sometimes these mid-majors have big guys step out and shoot a little more with more liberty. I think he's one where, he hits a couple of momentum daggers and just kind of rattles A&M a little bit, rattles those bigs. It's tough to bet. I definitely will not be betting against A&M or Yale. I just like 8 or 9. I'd like someone to just lay a hammer on A&M and I'll come back in, please.
All right. If you're listening out there, do that for Matthew. He's a new dad. He needs that boost in value. My last little note here, my guy Al K, who is, I believe, watching the show. We were watching the Cornell Yale final, and Cornell made like 8 threes in a row, and Yale didn't wither. Like they stayed up, they made shots themselves, took the best punch from a team on fire. And I think that's a nice testament. They won a game in the 50s and a game in the 90s and 80s in their Ivy tournament. They can win in multiple ways. Love that Yale team, tough as nails. Okay, next game we move to here. Ole Miss versus the winner of UNC is in the tournament against San Diego State. Shout out to Bubba Cunningham, the selection committee chair, for his $100,000 bonus for UNC getting in the tournament. That's pretty sleazy.
It's an obvious conflict of interest, Jim. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. Kai, the big thing that stood out to me here, Ole Miss basically turns games into iso ball. They are really high rate offensively in iso, and they force a ton of it defensively. They also try to force turnovers. San Diego State never goes isolation and is terrible at it when they do. UNC does it a ton and is awesome at it. So Rebels fans are probably praying that it's San Diego State that gets through. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that Aztecs versus Heels matchup or just generally here?
I'm on San Diego State +4. Transition defense. It's all about the defensive end. Their offense is not great. It's not great. Let's admit it. They need to muck this game up. I think they do. They win all the hustle balls. They make it ugly. Magoon Guath is back. He's now fully available. Hasn't played in a few weeks. He's their big guy. He's the best defensive player in the Mountain West. He has an insane block rate. San Diego State's #1 in the country in block rate. They defend the rim. The paint defense is incredible. They're going to make UNC hit shots. They're going to make them be jump shooters. Matt, we know RJ Davis has the ability to be a game breaker. Seth Turnbull, of course, can create as well, but it's not what they want to do. And you can certainly picture in your mind them getting into a little my turn, your turn ball against San Diego State, a defense that's going to frustrate them to no end. And San Diego State has Nick Boyd. And Nick Boyd's awesome. They're going to run a ton of ball screens, and I don't think UNC is necessarily a great defensive team, especially in the pick and roll. So I love San Diego State in the first matchup. Yeah, Ole Miss is a tough matchup for San Diego State in round 2. We'll see what the spread is in that game.
I kind of like UNC. I hate that, but to me, there's an experience gap here. And as much as I love Nick Boyd, the rest of those dudes on the Aztecs,
yeah.
I mean, I love him. I do. I just his teammates are too erratic, and I don't know what I'm getting from Goon. I think Goon could be a game changer. I don't know how effective he's going to be coming off the injury.
Effective.
You think so? I hope so. I mean,
it's been a month.
We talked.
Yeah.
I mean, he hadn't played though. I don't know. We haven't seen it. He was like becoming. His improvement was so rapid. It was like one of those things where he was just shooting off. And he was a comet. And I think he would crush UNC. Or that's been UNC's kryptonite. They just have no frontline resistance. I think RJ Davis and Cadeau get going here. As good as the Aztecs are defensively on the perimeter, I don't think they've seen a dynamic shot making backcourt like they have like UNC. I just think the Mountain West don't have those types of players like Colorado State, Utah State, Boise. I think the advantage they have in that conference is not evident here in this matchup against UNC. I hate that I like UNC, but I do.
Remember, this is a Q1 game, and UNC can't win those. But I kind of lean North Carolina. And again, I think if Carolina gets through, they're like a nightmare matchup for Ole Miss. So I will probably bet in the heels if they get there. The spread for that first round or the first 4 game is a little shaky. I don't really want to lay over a possession with the heels. But, man, they've been good when they should win against teams they should beat. It's when they have to play up that they haven't been quite as competent. I don't like Cadeau against a team that takes away the rim. Forcing him to shoot jumpers is scary, but
I know he needs to get rid of the ball. Less Cadeau. Low usage Cadeau is good Cadeau. That's my Cadeau take after all these months.
Iowa State versus Lipscomb. Man, Matthew, this Lipscomb team is one of those Colgates, Vermonts that's not that athletic, but is fantastic at executing. And sometimes we fall in love with them because they're fantastically efficient in a bad defense conference. I think they're in trouble here. Even with Keyshawn Gilbert announced out for the entire tournament for Iowa State, there's still plenty of ball pressure from Lipsy. Curtis Jones can get it. He can heat you up a little bit. And they've got a fantastic rim defense for Deshaun Jackson, Chatfield, Jefferson can help take away Ignacevic in the paint. I kind of lean Iowa State just taking care of business against a way less athletic team.
Iowa State, quasi-home game, Milwaukee. I think they're going to rally around their late season struggle, the absence of Gilbert, and it's a matchup where they are going to completely and utterly overwhelm the Bison, singular, Kai, athletically. You just played Bisons, plural. The North Dakota is the actual, yeah, right, okay. This game I don't think is close. I really don't. I know Lipscomb's well coached. They're unique. They're different. Their guards have not seen anything remotely close to this kind of pressure. Arkansas, I guess they did play somewhat competitively at Arkansas. Kentucky blew them away in the second half later, but I just think Arkansas at that point was not really, they were basically still finding out who they were. I think this is a runaway. Totally just pressure, overwhelm, men versus boys. I fear for those guards, Kai. How many turnovers does Anderson and Pruitt have? I don't think they can handle it.
I don't know, man. They're elite at handling the rock. They can shoot and they can handle the ball. Now, they're not going to face a team like Iowa State. They haven't faced a team like Iowa State. Arkansas, that was not a 16-point game. I watched that game. Lipscomb was beating them in the first half. They looked better at most of the game. Kentucky beat them by almost 30. And that's a concern. Iowa State has kind of blown teams out over the past couple of years under Otzelberger. Definitely a concern here. Athleticism edge is huge. Lipscomb's going to space them out. They're not going to really go inside that much. Ignacevic is great inside, but he can shoot. They're going to go 5 out, and they're just going to shoot. And three-point variance, of course, is the underdog's best friend. Lipscomb definitely has that, and I think Gilbert's status is really key. I don't think Lipscomb can really stop Iowa State, the ASUN is extremely efficient, and Lipscomb plays in the ASUN. They can't really defend power teams. But I'm really torn on a 15-point spread, Jim. It really feels high to me, and I really love Lenny Acuff as a coach. I think he's so smart. I think he'll have something up his sleeve in this game.
Yeah, I feel like it could be a little like last year where Iowa State got away late from South Dakota State, and
Yep.
there's a little bit of fight back, but again, athletically a little bit overmatched. And Lipscomb's only real rim resistance defensively, Dylan Faulkner, is out for the year. He got hurt in like December. They're just less athletic there and have to space out, like Kai said. They've got to outscore you, otherwise they've got some problems.
Another one where I think we saw Lipscomb go zone, kind of a tricky zone against UNA in that championship game. Again, some of these mid-majors with smart coaches, you'll see some curveballs that are sort of hard to talk about matchup-wise because we haven't seen a lot of it historically. But when you're playing a team like Iowa State, if you're Lipscomb, you're gonna probably, you're gonna go deep into the bag of tricks and probably bring some stuff that we haven't seen yet. I think that's going to be the case here with the Bison.
Bisons.
Bisons. All right, we pivot to the 7-10 matchup here out in Cleveland. Marquette taking on New Mexico. Probably the best individual 1v1 matchup of the entire first round. Cam Jones, All-American candidate at Marquette. Donovan Dent, All-American at New Mexico. Kai, they're probably going to guard each other, or excuse me, probably not going to guard each other. I would imagine that you cross match with Chase Ross guarding Dent.
Or Mitchell, right? Really
yeah, Stevie Mitchell could also. Yeah, it's the fact that they've got two is really helpful, and you just don't see this kind of pressure in the Mountain West. Matt was talking about like the guard scoring for what San Diego State doesn't see. I don't really think New Mexico sees what Marquette can throw at you on the ball. So with only one real like big time ball handler, I lean Marquette here. There's talking to Chad of Shaka in the tournament, which yes, not a great track record. Also him as a favorite, not all that great. He's much better as an underdog. So I'm willing to be convinced on either side here, Mr. McEwen.
But the Mountain West in the tournament, Jim. Aha, two sides to every coin.
Great point.
Yeah, Marquette, all pick and roll, heavy threes, great shot selection. Very jumper reliant, though. They don't draw fouls. New Mexico, great ball screen defense. It's pretty darn good. But on the other end, I worry about New Mexico's ability to score because I do think Marquette has great individual point of attack defenders like Mitchell. They do turn teams over. They really mix in pressure and zone looks. They're going to force New Mexico to play in isolation. I think Dent can do that, but that's not really what New Mexico wants to do overall. They want to attack the rim. They lack shooting. Marquette, not the best rim defense in the world. They don't have a lot of rim protection. But if Marquette can force them to be isolation players, something they're not accustomed to, they want to spread the ball, score by cutting and passing, that might take the Lobos out of their comfort zone a little bit. I think it sets up for the Eagles, Matt. I think New Mexico's best path is winning on the boards and dominating at the rim. But ultimately, I think Marquette gets away from them. I think the spread, what is it? Spread's like 4.
Which, I don't know, feels high.
Yeah, again, touch high. It's a lean towards Marquette at 4 for me.
Yeah, I guess what Marquette team we're going to see, right? I think we sort of have to, the awesome Marquette team I think we thought we were going to see in November. This team just isn't that. And I actually think the matchup, you mentioned, Kai, the advantage that the Lobos, especially with Nelly Jr. Joseph, could have at the rim. Funny that they just played St. John's, a super rim heavy team, and now they go against Baby Patino after playing Rick Sr. And I think that edge that the Johnnies had against them could just be a rinse, wash, repeat here. I kind of like the Lobos. They've played well against big teams in big spots, beat UCLA, a physical type of rim reliant type team here. I certainly would lean coaching edge toward. I know Shaka's they've had some issues. I actually kind of think I like Shaka. I trust Shaka more than the Rick Pitino has been an in-game adjuster. Sorry, baby Rick, but just kind of how I feel. Still, I think the matchup and the talent doesn't justify 4. I'm gonna go with the Lobos here, Jimmy.
Yeah, laying over possession does make me nervous there. Saw some love for the over in the chat. I kind of think if both teams actually take care of it against pressure, the defenses are designed to force long possessions. Marquette will run on offense, but defensively they want to stretch you out, make you use the shot clock. I could see it being a little bit slower if there's not a bunch of runouts on steals. Slower than expected. I don't think it's going to be a crawl, but slower than expected. So I don't have a strong take on the total there either. That's one I'm going to have to decide at game time, Kai.
That's right.
Under the gun.
Yeah.
Get something
Friday
in there.
game, so Beer Park. Yeah. Get the vibes going a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. All right, last one in this region, Michigan State against Bryant. Bryant has kind of made a living out athleting the entire America East. Not sure you can do that against Michigan State's giant bigs. Cohen Carr is the best athlete in college basketball, question mark. Probably best athlete vertically at the very least. Michigan State dominates the glass. That's going to take away an advantage for Bryant. It seems to me like Michigan State really just like takes away what Bryant thrives on.
I have seen some opinions that Bryant can hang with Michigan State. I totally disagree. I think this is a smash. Bryant's played 2 top 100 teams this year. They lost to St. John's by 22. They lost to Grand Canyon by 46 points. Matt, they lost to Grand Canyon by 46 points.
It was a 91 possession game. 91 possessions.
They play an extreme pace. Guess what? Michigan State is elite in transition this season. Like, elite. They are awesome on the run. They're fine with playing an up and down game. You want to give them more possessions? I don't think Izzo's going to say, hey, let's slow it down here. Bryant is really big. They're huge, but I think Sparty still handles them in the glass. They're going to shut down every half-court action Bryant throws at them. Bryant's only hope is to get out on the open floor. I'm not sure they can do that with how well Michigan State rebounds. It's going to be tough to take it out of the basket and try to run back on Sparty the entire game. So 17.5, 17, Michigan State will be a bet, Matthew.
Yeah, you're probably right there. I did like the point. I think I sent this to our Discord betting group. Only twice, or it's very rare that you have a team that was not ranked in the AP poll to start the year that shoots up the analytic charts and just overall seed line up to a 2 seed or higher.
Never made a Final
Michigan
Four,
State,
right?
They're in the Final Four, and a lot of early round exits. Michigan State kind of falls in that camp, right? It's sort of the point is, if there's some value in the preseason prior in terms of a team overachieving its talent to some extreme measure, there is a risk that there could, regression could come back down to earth, especially against a team with Bryant, who has pretty great talent, right? It's not Michigan State talent, but the gap's not enormous. The problem is the pace and the tempo this game's going to be played at. I just think you're going to run right into a bear trap if you're Bryant. I'm curious how Mr. Martelli plays this. I think he's going to be, again, I think we'll see some unique things up his sleeve. Not that they're going to halt the pace or anything, but maybe some, spurts of the game if they can hang around for a little bit, maybe they slow it down. Maybe a couple defensive curveballs. We talk about Michigan State not being a great zone offense. At least we saw that exposed in Big Ten play. Maybe that comes in here. I don't know. I actually think this game could be interesting. Not Middle Tennessee against Izzo, interesting. Giddy Potts, shouts, but interesting.
Yeah, I think you got to be able to shoot. Like you want the variance to come in. Like Michigan State's going to force you to go over the top because you're just not scoring at the rim against the immense size that they have. And Bryant doesn't really want to shoot threes. Pinzone can. And for people that are yelling into their pod device, Pinzone was out for the Grand Canyon game. But okay, does he make 46 points of difference?
He lost
I would
by
say
46
no.
points.
Yes, 46. I just don't think like the pace and style plays up that well. It is meant for destroying teams that have lesser athletes in their league. I fear for that playing up against Michigan State. So I would lean to Michigan State, Sparty laying the points, but haven't locked that in yet. Definitely advancing Michigan State. All right, guys, we want to do quick region picks before we move on. I haven't even filled out a bracket yet this year. First time in my life. So improvise here, Kai. Tell us what you got.
It's going to be Auburn, Jim, for me, coming out of this region. Yeah, it's going to be chalky. Auburn over Michigan State.
Okay, Matthew.
I think this region's wide open. I think this is like where you might see a Lobo run or maybe like UNC. You could see UNC in the Elite Eight here. Honestly, that's
yeah. I kind of felt that a little bit in my plums.
Gives me
the team that everybody's mad that gets in.
Right. Exactly.
Seemingly,
what was it? The UCLA team with Bryce Halford, right? The team that got the absolute
a Boeheim team always seems to do this.
The seas have sort of parted for Bubba Cunningham and his conniving group of cronies. I'm not gonna get that cute. I'm gonna go with the winner of Louisville Creighton is gonna win this region, Kyle. That's my hot take.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I think I'm kind of Auburn's lost to juice. I think you said that best in our group text. I think Auburn's gonna go down early this year. They peaked too soon. They've kind of lost some of their mojo.
I did not like after they beat Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, and Bruce Pearl's like, this team's been under so much pressure. They're under pressure. It's like, man, stop bringing it up. You're
Yeah,
just
I
going to
know.
make them feel even more. Let them play loose. Try to have fun playing basketball. And it didn't seem like they really had that. And that worries me, but I still think they get out of this region. I don't think Michigan State has like the highest ceiling against non-Big Ten teams. Iowa State, very worried about them without Gilbert. They have not been the same team when they're not full strength. I think Auburn still gets there, but it's not the same kind of emphatic run maybe we envisioned like a month ago.
A last point here. I think of the SEC apples. I think we're all in on the SEC is really good. I don't think we're gonna go to bat against the rotten apples. I think we're kind of all tossed in here. Ole Miss, I don't really trust. A&M, I don't really trust.
Oh, I thought you were such an A&M guy. I'm shocked.
And just the last couple of weeks, I have to look at the horse I'm watching now. It's not the horse I wanted to watch. So
Is there a little too much Zurich Phelps chucking for you?
Yeah, it was already erratic enough. We didn't need to add another enigma to the mix, a high usage enigma.
Yeah.
But Buzz likes it. He doesn't turn it over, Jim, and he forces turnovers. So the extras.
Yeah. The extras indeed. Okay, that is it. That is our preview of the South region. Kai, I'm going to hand it off to you to host the next region. We're going to head east across the top of the bracket, your top right quadrant here, Duke's home of homes. But before we do, Matthew, a quick shout out to CBB Analytics, one of our loyal sponsors, been with us through the entire season. We love using the site. Give them a little shout out.
Check them out, folks. We just retweeted today, and I will retweet after this show, a new bracket optimization tool I just put out. A great way to help you fill out your bracket, simulate some win percentages, different paths, odds. If you're doing a bracket pool, some survival, any of that kind of stuff. A very useful tool on top of the already great matchup stuff that we've been using all season that we cite throughout the show. We love looking at the shot diet, the shot chart matchups, offense, defense, very handy for handicapping, just analyzing these games in general, on top of all their kind of four-factor KenPom statistics, contextualized, by situation. I think very useful, especially for using how have these teams performed against Q1, Q2. What are their shot chart efficiency look like against Q1, Q2, not just racked up against bad teams or some of these low majors. That's promo code WEAVE for those of you interested in signing up, which should be all of you, WEAVE, $40 off a subscription. And Pro Tier, the Holy Grail Pro Tier is available for coaches and super duper users. Just email us or DM us, and we can set up for that as well.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Love it. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Jim, for passing off the East region to me. Yes, we're going to get started here. We're going to get started with, I'm just writing down the timestamps, I'm sorry. Duke against the winner of American and Mount St. Mary's. Oh, the intrigue.
Did you name this region, Kai, real quick? Sorry, I know it, Jim. Did you name your region, the South region?
I did not.
The
Rothstein region.
You're not three-man Rothstein.
Three-man Roth.
Duke probably beats American / St. Mary's. I have yet to write this preview, American Mount St. Mary's for Reaction Network. I am on the docket to do it. Here's my high-level 2 cents. Mount was down a starter and down a key player in the MAC tournament. They still won it. It's very odd. I think Cordelia and Adebayo are matchup challenges for American. Very versatile, athletic, kind of two guys that can tag team Matt Rogers. For American, he's their best player. Great post-up presence. They play through him. He can shoot. But American is very old. Number one continuity in the country. They can shoot, and Rogers is a stud. I lean towards Mount, Jim, ever so slightly in this game. It is a toss-up for me.
Yeah, numbers like 3, right? And it's 1 at KenPom. It does feel like closer to a coin flip.
2.5 currently now, yeah, and 129.5. So yeah, so it should be a low-scoring game in theory.
Oh, pace is going to be nothing. Like neither team wants to run. Mount St. Mary's especially doesn't now that they're hurt. Like played 59 possession game with Merrimack in the semifinals of the NAAC tournament. I think that would be really slow with American also wanting to tone it down. But both these teams are getting blitzed by Duke. We agree, right? I mean, Duke can win by as many as they want. They could all season. Like they beat Wofford by 50. They beat Army by 42. They beat. It's just ridiculous what they can do to inferior competition. It's just how much do they want to try? Flag probably doesn't play, right, Kai? You'd imagine.
I wouldn't play them. They don't need them. They'll still win by 50. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew, you're confident Duke's going to win the game?
I just quick take on the MAAC. Yeah, Duke by 30. A bummer. I think interesting that we saw Tobin Anderson fired today at
Ridiculous.
Iona.
Asinine. Yep. All those.
Ridiculous. But I think you saw who they hired, basically a guy whose dad is a CEO and has a lot of money. And I think it's just sort of if you can get a coach with ties to NIL, you bring him in because the MAAC, Mount is in a microcosm league. A lot of, actually, I would say solid young talent. Problem is that young talent doesn't win in today's college basketball, and these schools can't keep that talent. So I think the Mount is that sort of team. Some young, promising guys. I'm sure all the portal poachers will be watching this game closely. There's some interesting pieces, and I feel like it's going to be a farm system situation for the Mount here. And yeah, they'll lose by 30.
The Mount has been a minor league team for a couple of years in terms of like feeding bigger programs with players. Okay, we move on to the 8-9 game. Much more intriguing contest: Mississippi State and Baylor. Chris Jans versus Scott Drew. How fun! The Bulldogs, the 9 seed, are actually the favorite in this game. About 1.5 points out there, -2. Very aggressive, physical, gritty, pound the board style as Mississippi State. Lots of guard dynamism, though. Kind of the difference in years past when you think of Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard is a stud. The ball screen attack all day for him. Jim, what I love the most is Mississippi State can throw Cam Matthews on Edgecombe. That is a yes, please for me. I love that matchup for Mississippi State. And I think Mississippi State has the front court depth to sort of corral Omier. And we know Baylor severely lacks front court depth. Omier might get a double-double, but he's going to have issues getting a bunch of different Mississippi State players thrown at him all night.
Yeah, Omier can be kind of a matchup problem off the bounce, like if you're not using Cam Matthews on him, like the bigger guys. But Matthews is a ridiculous, like could be National Defensive Player of the Year caliber. He's just playing with a bunch of small guards that don't really try half the time. Hubbard, not a good defender. Part of me wanted to just look at this game and be like, oh, high scoring, probably efficient with the way Baylor is all small ball at this point. Which guard group do I trust more? And that would likely have been Baylor. But I kind of soured on it, Matt. They're 361st nationally in away from home ranking, 325th in consistency, 297th in momentum. Like this team isn't playing well. They're bad away from home. I know they're like they kind of competed in the Big 12 tournament, but that's more familiar foe. But I've also been burned back in Mississippi State 2 tournaments in a row, and I'm not super jacked about that. But it's a different team. There's a little more offensive upside. It's not like they're doomed as soon as they start trying to shoot threes as they did the last couple of years. I'm going to go with Mississippi State ever so slightly in here. Also kind of like the over. I think it's going to be efficient, even if it's really slow. Baylor's playing really slow since they went down to like 6-7 guys. I just think both teams can score. Lean to Mississippi State though, Matthias.
Yeah, what's the gif with the guy from GTA? Like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, this is how I feel as I looked at Mississippi State. It was like, yeah, I want to back this team, but Jim, you're talking about your Baylor concerns, and I'll show you the mirror back in your face. Mississippi State, all they've done in the last 3 weeks is beat LSU twice. Like, really, we're non-competitive in a few of those games. I know they played Texas in OT. Arkansas was a 1-point game. If you kind of zoom back and think about what this team was or what concerns we had preseason, there was a lot of erratic scoring, shooting, shot making, like RJ Melendez, feast or famine. Josh Hubbard, we love Josh Hubbard, right? But he can go cold at times as well. Riley Kugel, feast or famine. And the Murphys and the Matthews, like the heart and soul defender, like they're not awesome offensive players and they're sort of limited. That's my concern. I just feel like there's, if Baylor was healthier, I'd feel more confident backing them. But I still like Baylor a little bit more of the matchup here. And I just sort of have resigned to the fact that, Matt, my stubbornness with Mississippi State has to have an end. I'm going to wave the white flag. I actually think I'm going to go with Baylor in this one.
Yeah, fair enough. If Baylor zones, it's very hard to get into the paint and at the rim against Baylor. They take it away at an elite level. Mississippi State's not a great shooting team. They have a couple guys like Hubbard, but they're not across the board, like you said. So there is a concern for Mississippi State. Very slightly.
They actually get this
Mississippi State. Yeah.
Down to 29% SEC play.
Are they?
Like
so
worse than last year.
Yeah.
It's like, no, not again,
circle.
Jans. I thought we addressed the shooting. It's like, nah, it's the same old thing.
I'm seesawing back to Baylor here, man. Both defenses keep you away from the rim. I kind of want the better jump shooting team, and I think that's Baylor, even though they didn't shoot all that well down the stretch. Gosh, this is going to take a little further investigation, I think, for me.
I agree. Let's put a pin in it for next show next year. Okay, Oregon and Liberty is where we're going next. 5-12 game. Oregon's favored by 6.5 out there, maybe some 7 out there. Liberty's very good. Let's start with that. Liberty. Is that one of the commercials that's going to be on constantly? We'll see. They beat K-State. They beat McNeese. They're 2-0 against top 100 competition. Their defense is excellent per usual. Is it lucky? They do take away the three at a high rate, but they're third in the country in three-point percentage allowed. That is probably a bit of an outlier. They rebound, they don't foul, but they're small. That's a concern, Jim, obviously, against Oregon. What do you think in this game?
They are itty bitty, teeny tiny. Even with my guy Owen Aquino patrolling the paint, the JUCO transfer stud, their guards are like 5'10". I think Colin Porter calling him 5'10" is ridiculously generous. He's probably 5'8". And then Caden Matheny 5'11", like two sub 6 foot guys in the backcourt. You can kind of bully them a little bit. Shellstad's not big, but he is much bigger. And Matt, who's guarding TJ Bamba? I mean, you can throw Moffmer at him if you want, but last year Oregon did this a ton with Kusnard, ISOing him at like the top of the key, let him get downhill. I think they can do that with Bamba here in this matchup. And then in the paint, who's stopping Biddle? I know Aquino's good, but he's only 6'8". Big actual like tall bigs have given them problems in the past when they played up. Like Kai said, they beat Kansas State this year. Kansas State's not that good. Liberty hasn't translated all that well up to power competition in the past. Last year they lost to Alabama by 45. And that was a good Liberty team. So I worry for them here. Dana Altman in the tournament, kind of mix in the changing defenses against a good shooting team. I like Oregon, Matthias.
Yeah, I think I put Liberty in our pick'em thing. I'm gonna probably change my mind because Jim, the key piece that they're missing, I mentioned this before, is Isaiah Enon from Minnesota, who people might roll your eyes at, but he was the MVP of that game against K-State, and he was very good against McNeese. Like he was sort of that big power conference size. I think he's like a 7'2" wingspan. They're gonna miss him in this game. I think in Conference USA they got away with some smoke and mirrors. They did play against guys like Bacho. There are some good bigs in that league, but it's not what you're seeing here with Biddle, as good as Biddle's been. Like Biddle has been the catalyst to this Oregon run, much like Dante. The light bulb went off. Oregon, holy shit, they're awesome, right? This year it's been, okay, Biddle's healthy, the light bulb's gone off, and then everything's kind of fallen around him. I'm going to flip back to Oregon here. I wanted to get Q with a little Liberty upset pick, but I don't know. I don't like rooting for Liberty anyway, so I'm going to go with the Quackers and the Ducks.
I love that they can shoot. Top 5 in the country in three-point percentage, top 15 in two-point percentage. It's jumper heavy, ball movement, top 10 in rim and three rate per shot quality, but it's one and done shots. They do not rebound. That's part of the reason they're an elite transition defense. They get back. If they're cold, it'll be a blowout. Oregon size, we already mentioned, big problem. Not just Biddle. I think Cook is a problem for them. I think Evans is a problem for them. I even think Angel a little bit is a problem for them.
Yeah, you did the guards too. Like these 5'10" guys are shooting over 6'5" guards. Yeah.
And Oregon pressures too. And that athleticism, that size might bother Liberty, a team that's usually pretty good at handling the ball. I still think it can cause them to struggle. I would lean towards Liberty at 7 or higher. Below that, it's kind of dicey. I'd probably stay away. I'm going to force a bet somewhere in this game. I prefer 7 on Liberty if I'm going to take it. All right, let's move on to Arizona and Akron. And I have a take in this one, Jim. I hope Matt gets back for the MAC, but if he's not, that's okay. He does have dad duties. Oh, he's back. Good.
Back.
Arizona, Akron. Really good offense, really bad defense. Play very up-tempo, and Matt, in my opinion, asking for death against Arizona. They're 0-3 this year. Akron is against top 100 competition. Arkansas State, St. Mary's, Yale. And Zona just smashes teams. This could be like a 25, 30-point game. I respect Akron a lot. I think Arizona smokes them, covers 14 points easily.
Yeah, Arizona by 30. And I know this is where I've been stubbornly not a believer in this Akron team all year. I think they're a good team. I think Gross is coaching-wise maybe his best performance of his entire career. Like, any place, Ohio, just what they lost, what he brought in, how it fit, the whole system redesign, how well it worked. But I think he preyed on a very, very lackluster MAC. And I saw Jason Shear tweeted out, hey guys, I can tweet out some similarities between the Buffalo matchup and this one if you guys want, or I can wait and not do that. But I don't see those. I see where he's going with that. Some of the space and pace and shooting. This Arizona team's, I think they crush. I think Caleb Love against bad teams, against bad defenders, smaller guards, will go off. I think you get like a vintage good Caleb Love in this game, and the rest of the team just kind of falls around him.
Yeah, we've seen Arizona go down in the tournament, but mostly it's teams that slow them down. The Tommy Lloyd version, like going all the way back
Princeton,
to the Buffalo game,
yeah.
that's not Tommy Lloyd. I'm not going to hold his head to the fire for that game. Yeah, Princeton making them play in the half court. maximize possessions. You don't want to get in a track meet with this team. That's scary. We just talked about how Liberty's small. Akron's 361st in average height. They play 4 guards at all times. They're going to get worked on the glass by an outstanding rebounding team in Arizona. Maybe that exposes them a little bit on the back end of transition. I'm not all that worried about it, Kai. They play Awaka and Vesar together. I mean, even Townsend's going to eat on the glass against this team. I fear for Akron in the up-tempo battle against a team that can onslaught them at the rim.
Yeah, like the Liberty game, they could get hot. They can really shoot. They could get hot and get up early and maybe punch Arizona in the mouth, but I don't know how they stop them. It's not just the glass. It's straight line drives. It's pick and roll. It's everything. It's transition. I don't see how Arizona doesn't score less than like 1.15 points per possession, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be like a bad day.
Yeah, 1.2 at least. Or they're going to score. So yeah, I took the Cats already, minus 13.5. I take 14. The over is the total is probably huge. I didn't even look at the total,
I think it's 167. Yeah.
Even then, I still lean over a little bit in that one because I think both teams are going to be supernovas.
This is a Tommy Lloyd mission year, right? Year 3, 2 early-ish exits. Tough draw, but man, the rematch with Duke could be pretty cool if we get there, potentially.
Yeah, Kai, you just gave me flashback. I bet the over with the Arizona and Long Beach last year, it went 78 possessions. Like, should be an over, and neither team could shoot. It's like, great. All right. I'll still probably run it back and bet the over again here because I think both teams have such routes to scoring, and I don't really know when Akron gets a stop.
All right. Sounds like the boys are a little bit lockstep in that game. All right. A little lockstep for the boys. BYU VCU, the battle of the 3-letter schools. Fun game. Can't score in the paint against VCU. That's where I'll start. They do a really good job there. Number 1 in the country in effective field goal percentage, but I'm not sure that matters, Jim. BYU doesn't hang out in the paint. It's all triples. It's run and gun, drive, kick, hoist. Mondo efficient team. VCU is great at running shooters off the line. They send a ton of pressure. Number 5 in the country in press rate. Look for them to create turnovers. BYU's ball handling can be shaky. But Jim, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, the VCU kind of like really upgraded the defense when they're like, all right, we like Christian Furman, but Luke Bamgoy is a freak. Like he just takes away the rim completely, blots out the sun. Let's funnel everything to him with our kind of bigger guards. The Shulga, Zeb Jackson, Bamisil, they're all about 6'4", 6'5", athletic. Let's just run you off the line, like you said, Kai, and see what they can do in the paint. I fear for BYU's guards as finishers. Like Demon wants to distribute, Dallin Hall wants to shoot, Nell wants to shoot. Maybe Saunders can finish inside, but I've seen VCU compared to like a mini Houston in their style, and Houston eviscerated BYU twice. And it's probably not fair to compare VCU to Houston. It's a different caliber of team, but at least stylistically, I think the pressure can bother the sort of less athletic guards for BYU. But Matt, can VCU hold up inside? Defensive glass with Keita getting after him and Traore, TBD there. But I do lean VCU. But this is one of the games I had like the toughest time with in the first round.
Yeah, very tough. Did you give any local altitude bump convenience for BYU? I think playing at altitude, though, it's a great draw. It's a very good draw playing at altitude in VCU, who has already done the altitude trip this year, not to the mountains, but down to UTEP, New Mexico. And I think the altitude got to this team in the second half. The Lobos kind of out-pressured them. But BYU doesn't like get up into you and pressure defensively. I don't know if they have that same effect here over the course of 40 minutes. I will say getting Philip Russell back is huge for this team. Like his shot making is just opens up this offense, and
he's the attitude too. He's just like a shit disturber.
Yep. And Bamisil and Jackson can be enigmas, but I think they can run real hot. And I don't know. I just think it's a tough spot for them. I think it's a good live betting game. That's what I wrote down. I was like, I have no idea. I think there's some crazy runs in this game, though.
Yeah, BYU sags on defense. They lots of zone, allow a high rate of threes. I think Max Shulga could be the best player on the floor. He's not the best NBA prospect, but he could be the best player on the floor. He's truly awesome. In addition to Bamisil and Russell and Zeb Jackson, VCU's backcourt's awesome. Yeah, it's a great matchup for VCU, but the game's in freaking Denver, Jim. And I hate that so much. It's such a tough travel for VCU. It's a huge disadvantage.
And they played Sunday.
It's a huge disadvantage.
It's like every team in Denver is like one team played Sunday and the other didn't, and it's way more convenient for the team that didn't. I feel bad for that.
I don't think that's baked in the line, to be honest. 3.5. I'm not sure that travel is is baked in there yet. So what I'm saying is it's a little bit short. I'd love to bet VCU, but 3.5 is a tad short. I want at least 4. I was hoping for 5. Probably won't get to 5, but 4 would be a bet for VCU.
Yeah, I like the style for VCU to run off the line because you don't want BYU bombing away from 3. Look what they did to Iowa State in that Big 12 tournament game where they made seemingly 30 threes. I think it was actually like 19, but that was ridiculous. On the other hand, though, BYU top 5 in the country and keeping you away from the rim, and VCU is okay at shooting the 3, but not great. I think they could fall in love with that a little bit, and that would be frustrating. So lean to VCU, but I do think there are some edges for BYU there, both matchup and with that situation in Denver.
All right, good stuff. Wisconsin, Montana, 3:14 games where we head next. I know we have some differing opinions on this one.
Yeah, one of the rare ones we've already gotten hashed out in the chat.
Wisconsin minus 16.5, 17. I think Montana gets run out of the freaking gym. Oregon beat them by 41. Tennessee beat them by 35. They did hang it with Utah State. But Wisconsin's a different animal this year, man. Actual athletes, high-octane offense. Montana's defense is a turnstile. They're bad everywhere on defense. I think Wisconsin kills them in the post. I think Tanjay and Black will have no issue. Badgers are much, much bigger. Montana's offense is just jump shooting. It's spot-ups, no offensive glass. All Wisconsin has to do is defend the arc. Matthew, why am I wrong? Why will they not get beaten down?
I think the matchup points, Jim brought this up last night. Matchup-wise, I'm not going to make a strong case here. I will say, though, that one of debatably their second most valuable player, Malik Moore, did not play in those games against Oregon and Tennessee. He is like like an athlete that can at least negate the wings of Tanjay and Blackwell. You're not going to shut either one of those guys down, but like with him and Money Williams, like I look on paper, like that's a decent 2-for-2 matchup. And Money Williams, by the way, was not healthy early to start the year either. So I think this Montana team is a different team than when they played to start this season. But you're right. The matchup stuff's, worrisome. I just don't know if they can actually exploit what Wisconsin does. But the spot, Jim, again, 2 Big Ten teams, both Michigan and Wisconsin, who played on Sunday, have to go to altitude. We'll see how that plays out. Another one here, easy flight for Montana, direct flight. I know DeCuro is actually fired up about this matchup because a lot of their fans will be there in person. I don't know. I just think it could be a sluggish Wisconsin first half, and then maybe they blow them off, into a 30-point runaway second half. But I do think the Grizz are in this game for longer than people think.
Can hang around a little bit. All right, I buy that a little. But yeah, Big Sky teams typically awful in the tournament. And they were really bad in the non-con. Then whoa, wait, they solved it. But remember, they were playing conference competition. There's another team that we'll talk about like that later in the bracket. But Montana, you watch them and they're a lot of downhill drive, like drive and kick. We're either getting shots up or we're finishing at the rim. Wisconsin's top 10 nationally in keeping you away from the rim. It's a really solid defensive shell. And when you get there, Steven Crowell's waiting, and he's like one of the best verticality bigs. I'm putting my hands up on the stream right now. He's not going to send you to the free throw line. He's going to make you finish over the top. And I think that's going to be tougher for these 6'3", 6'4", wingy guards that Montana's got. They don't really have the same size inside. Offensively, I think Wisconsin can bomb away. They were tired and cold against Michigan on Sunday. Maybe that carries over a little bit to altitude, but they've got 3 days off, and those guys can really score. I think Tanjay can get to the line a little bit against Montana. The athleticism advantage is actually Wisconsin. This isn't like your typical slow it down, crawl, and run the swing offense. So lean Wisconsin. Although with the Montana shooting, Matt, I did come around on the over with you. So not quite on board with Montana, but I think both teams can score.
I would say our sponsor, CBB Analytics, I'm just looking at their Montana's shot chart heat map, all games. But then if you isolate quad 1, quad 2, you see the sharp drop in efficiency at the rim against premier teams. Obviously, Wisconsin with the way they defend. That's my concern because I love Joe Pridge the Fridge, but he's going to be driving into a 7-foot wall that he hasn't seen in the Big Sky this year. So I think you need a big-time Money Williams game. I think Money Williams has potential to be like that fun breakout star. His story goes viral. But it's a tough matchup, man, because he'll be working his tush off guard, and I assume either Blackwell or Tanjay on the other end.
Yeah, just the last note, Kai matchup applies. Wisconsin's been an awesome ball screen efficient team this year, both the score and out of passes out of that, and Montana does not guard the ball screen well. Not really.
Who is the luckiest team in KenPom this year?
Oh, is it the Grizz?
It's Montana.
Well, they won me some money in the regular season and the conference tournament. So
Really?
thank you for being
Interesting.
lucky.
They were, I would say they were lucky to start conference play, and then they actually got good. But the question is, that good was against the Big Sky, and the one game they didn't look good was against Portland State, the only like
Yeah.
athletic team in that conference, and got crushed on the glass. So I mean, yeah.
Hmm.
God, I did right. This matchup sucks. All right, I might have to
He's coming
reassess my
around.
taste.
He's going to reassess, and we're going to reassess the next game. St. Mary's Vanderbilt 7-10 game. Gales land 4.5. The Gales are no joke. Top 10 defense in the country. Insane offensive rebounding squad. Number 2 in the country in offensive rebounding rate. Lock down the paint. They don't foul. Their offense can struggle. They really need the glass. They play heavy through the post through Mitchell Saxon. A lot of ball screen action for Gus. He needs to create. Vanderbilt susceptible inside, Jim. Not very big. So-so rim protection. They aren't great rebounders. But Vanderbilt certainly has the athletic edge. They're very dynamic. Edwards and Hogard, probably a little bit of success against the St. Mary's perimeter.
Yeah, drop coverage team big time with St. Mary's. They're going to make the pick and roll ball handler make plays. And Edwards, I trust to do that. Hogard's decision making's been weird. He like sometimes won't shoot like an easy floater and he'll try to throw some crazy kick out pass. It's bizarre. The matchup I can't get out of my head here, Kai, is Vanderbilt against Drake, a similar, super well coached half court team that dominates the glass. Drake had over 50% of their misses that they got offensive rebounds on, just totally dominated. Vandy's pressure showed up against Drake. They forced 20 turnovers, but Drake still won by double digits. And St. Mary's is better handling the ball than Drake is. So the more I dove into this, I actually really like St. Mary's. I think they just kind of slowly bludgeon Vanderbilt. And I didn't, a lot of people got off the Gales train because they didn't make a three against Gonzaga and didn't look awesome against their athletes. But I think this is an okay matchup for them with their major size advantage and edge on the glass, Matthias.
I agree. I kind of like I think this game is really low scoring. I think St. Mary's offense, Jim, I know it was one game. I think there was other underlying things from that tournament that bothered me with the Gales. However, I think defensively, Vanderbilt's they have not seen a defensive structure or just overall, just sound connectedness that they're going to see in the Gales, and especially up front. It's going to have to be, you're going to have to make shots, because if they don't, I don't know how you're going to score. The pace battle is interesting. I don't know how this pace usually plays. I mean, St. Mary's always wins the pace battle, and they basically slow Gonzaga down every time they play. Like, if they can slow Gonzaga down, you can slow Vandy down, right? So I like Gales. I think the matchup sets up well here. Game's kind of a matinee start here in Cleveland. Yeah, I know it's a Friday start, not Thursday start, so it's actually they get plenty of time off there. Yeah, I like the Gales. I'm with the Gales there.
Good, me too. Gales. Okay, last game in the East region. Then we'll pivot to the Midwest for some more ball talk. Almost halfway done, fellas. Congratulations. At just over an hour. That's about the pace we're expecting. It's Alabama, Robert Morris. This could be a name your number game. The Tide are favored by about 22 points right now. Robert Morris got away with being more athletic and bigger than every team in the Horizon, and they're not more athletic or bigger than Alabama, even without Grant Nelson. For me, Matt, this is at least a 20-point win for Alabama. I think they smoked them in transition on the glass from deep, and they're going to live at the free throw line. You're more of a Horizon guy, so I'll get your thoughts first on this game.
I like this Bobby Moe team. I don't like that they've played literally nobody this season, save West Virginia to open the year. And I remember taking the points with Bobby Moe. I think it was 25-0 out of the gate. I think it was the start to that game.
30-2.
Lost 30-2 run. Okay, actually even worse. Still, first game of the year, Bobby Moe is much better than they were then. West Virginia had Tucker DeVries. I still think there is some, you're right, Kai, when you go strength on strength with these mid-majors, that's not a good recipe. I think you need to be different to be a giant killer. I'm not sure Bobby Moe is different enough, even though they have really substantially upgraded. I think we'll talk about this when we get to Omaha later. Similar story. Their edge against conference foes is not going to hold up well in this matchup. I guess final point is Alabama injury concerns. I mean,
yeah, Grant Nelson's questionable,
but yeah,
not in this game.
They're deep. They've already lost Millette, Wrightsell, and Darian Reed has barely played. But we came into the season, we're like, this team has 13 players. They've still got 8 or 9 that are really good at basketball. I think their guards kind of go nuts here. Marion Dickerson is the defensive player of the year in the Horizon, but he's a 6'7", 180-pound forward that I think will struggle with the physicality at times. I do think Robert Morris can score because Alabama's defense stinks out loud. So this one feels like another track meet first round game. Last year, Kai, what was the popular first round bet? Charleston and Alabama over, and they went over 200 points.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
I could
right.
see Robert Morris and Alabama doing this again. So even with a high total, this is one I'm interested in. The over, not as strong of a lean on the side, maybe a slight one to Alabama, but the injury concerns back me off a bit. I just think there's just a point bonanza here. Right? Robert Morris made everything in the Horizon tournament. And that's kind of been their juju for a while now.
Exactly. That's why they're going to get smoked.
No chance
This
Fulgaris
team
goes
is
off.
so above their heads. It's insane.
No chance against.
Yeah,
Of course
Fulgaris
there's a
can
chance.
pull.
Not as much.
He can
Yeah.
pull Omori away from the rim because he's 45% 3-point shooter, 43%.
I'm assuming Grant Nelson's not playing in this game. I bet he
No,
rests
I doubt it.
of injury
Yeah.
concern. Yeah.
But then it's Diabate is awesome. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's Alabama still.
All right, fellas, Midwest time. But first, a shout out to Home Field Apparel, our wonderful sponsor, the best makers of premium collegiate apparel in the entire world. I'm once again wearing my Mizzou hoodie. It rarely comes off my body when I'm in my home because it's so comfortable and it's really cool. I love it so much. The designs are impeccable. They dig through years of history of your program, of your school, to make meaningful designs on your shirts and your hoodies and your bomber jackets. I got a sick Mizzou bomber jacket coming. Thank you, Mom, for my old birthday. Appreciate that. It's dope. I'm going to look so cool during football season in my Mizzou bomber jacket. They got hats. They got whatever you want. Really cool stuff at Home Field Apparel. Shop your school right now. Homefieldapparel.com. Use our promo code 3MW at checkout. That's Home Field Apparel. Wear one for the team. Okay, I think Jim is leading us to the Midwest region once again.
Wait, no,
I
I'll
am.
do Midwest, Jim.
Matt, you got it?
Sure?
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
you
I thought you
previewed
wanted the
West.
last one.
You previewed West for the
Yes, the Jordan
Majeski
Majeski site.
Empire.
Yeah.
Let me do Midwest then. I want Jim
Go for
to have his expertise on
We
the
were
West.
going to give you last.
how the West
Matthew?
was won.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think my house is finally stable now with dogs
Excellent.
not barking and babies not crying. So I think we're going to go ahead and attack the opportunity here. Let's start at the top. Houston versus SIUE. Man, poor Brian Baroni, my guy, St. Louisan. I guess St. Louis proper. Fun story. Houston's not a fun team to play, Kai. And I listened to Kelvin Sampson talked about how much he respects Baroni. Played, coached against his dad and against Brian, who's the point guard for his dad. Like taking this team. So in very Houston form, they take every team seriously. That's why they beat bad teams because they dominate them defensively and they don't ever like overlook anybody. So this is a name your number game for me. Any more profound thoughts, Mr. McKeon?
No, it's likely a blowout. It's likely a blowout. SIUE is not going to score. Houston's going to grab every single rebound. They're going to force 20 turnovers. It's a blowout, Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the sells for SIUE is they compete on the glass. They're a decent glass team. They were really good or solid in the OVC. It's like it's not going to happen against Houston. That's bad news. The one I kind of like the under, and I was thinking about that, and then I read Matt Winnick's preview on Jordan's site, and he said first half under before it gets out of hand and they start playing looser in the second half, and I really like that thought. So I will be on the first half under whenever it comes out. I have not seen a total for it yet, but I have no idea how SIUE scores against this Houston defense. Even if Jalen Roberts doesn't play, continues to rest that ankle, they've got plenty of front court athletic depth. Tugler and Francis on the court, you're not scoring at the rim. So yeah, I just think under numbers high. I'm not going to lay it with Houston. Like it's 24 in Ken Palm and it's 28.5 in the market. So no, thank you. But first half under is what I like.
I just realized
Juwan Roberts' status.
Yeah,
Sit him.
he's TBD. You
Right.
sit him for this.
Sit
game.
him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, forgot we didn't do East picks. I'll take Duke over Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go Duke as well. Jeez, my bracket just zoomed on me. I just don't love any of the other teams as like the big candidate to upset them. Don't believe in Alabama. Wisconsin can make a run. St. Mary's, yeah, it's just not athletic enough. Oregon will give Duke a run. I think they'll give them a game. But you know what, Kai? Duke over Wisconsin as well.
Matthew.
I'm going to take Duke over St. Mary's.
Love it.
I think Duke is more likely to lose to either Oregon or Arizona than they are to insert team to come to the Elite Eight there, whether it be Wisconsin. You guys are saying Wisconsin. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far there, but I think Duke's toughest test could actually be in that Sweet 16 game. But yeah, I got Duke there.
Fair enough. Okay, back to you, Matt.
So Gonzaga, Georgia, and this is the second game in the Wichita little funnel there. Um, Everyone is picking Gonzaga here, right? The underseeded 8 seed, the disrespect, yada yada yada. I don't think anyone takes Georgia seriously, even though they're from the SEC. One of the bigger spreads you'll see in an 8-9 game, -6. The Zags are laying here, Jim. 151 the total. I like the Zags. I'm not running to bet my mortgage on it. It just feels like one of those where it's like everything seems too good to be true, and then Georgia plays well, and those freshmen, Noel goes off, and Blue King gets loose for some threes, and it's like it's a dicey game. Like I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I like for Georgia here. I kind of lean their way. Like Stuckey said, maybe go first half because Gonzaga's been better in the second half. Georgia's collapsed a couple times in the second half. So lean the dogs. But I think they're going to get Graham EK in foul trouble against Tier A competition. He fouls 6 times per 40 minutes. He's really struggled with it against their better foes. I think that's going to show up in this one. And who's modeled after Gonzaga in the SEC, Kai? That'd be Florida. And Georgia has beaten Florida. They got up 25 on them. I don't think seeing this version, it's lesser than Florida at this point, is going to fully intimidate the dogs. And Georgia's like huge up front. They have an army of bigs to rotate against Huff, against EK. I'm not worried about that. I don't love the Georgia guards. I think they're pretty erratic. None of them are true point guards, so they can go a little my turn, your turn. They can turn the ball over a little bit. But 6 is actually a little too many for me with Georgia's physicality. Lean them in first half, and we'll probably bet them full game too.
Yeah, I agree. The spread's a little high. The Zags are one of the most underseeded teams ever with the 2016 and 2017 Wichita squads, 2014 Kentucky. This seed's ridiculous. They're a top 10 team in KenPom, and they're an 8 seed. I think that helps Gonzaga. Little less pressure. There's no pressure being an 8 seed. Maybe you're a little pissed off. Yeah, Georgia's front court's deep, but gosh, so is Gonzaga's. EK, Huff, Greg, they stretch the floor. I think those are tough matchups. The Zags really run through the post. They use their versatile bigs in a variety of rolling situations. I think Georgia's vulnerable to transition. Can they stick with the poppers, with the 4 men of Gonzaga? I love Huff, by the way. Braden Huff is an awesome player. If you guys haven't watched a lot of Gonzaga, tune in this game. Demery versus Battle is going to be very fun. 2 really big wings / ball handlers going at it. It does feel high, though, slightly. If you made me choose on the spread, I'd lean towards Georgia at 6 or 7.
Man, both of you lean Georgia, huh?
The spread's a little too high, but I do think Gonzaga wins this game. I think Gonzaga gives Houston a heck of a run for their money.
I did watch a little bit of Georgia the last few games. I think Tyron Lawrence back healthy, and you don't have Montgomery there. Lawrence is just way better, frankly, in my opinion. He doesn't kick the ball into the stands as often. The Georgia's turnovers have killed them all year. Gonzaga
they don't have a point guard, right? It's like we got a bunch of wings trying to, yeah.
That's the key.
But Lawrence I feel like I trust the offense more when he has it than I did with Montgomery. They're like really excited about Montgomery, former Mount player. But I don't know, just never saw it. Let's move along here. We go to Providence, the Dunk, or the artist formerly known as the Dunk. Amica Mutual, whatever it's stupidly called now.
The
Amp. Clemson McNeese. Kai McD State was the popular upset pick against the fraudulent Gonzaga Bulldogs, we were told last year, and then Gonzaga looked like the better team, won by 20.
Exactly. Let's remember that. Shoot, maybe I'll change my choice on Gonzaga, Georgia. Let me think about that. Go ahead.
I think Gonzaga is like a disrespected thing. I like Gonzaga. Anyway, that aside, Will Wade, kind of a deja vu in my opinion of last year, right? I think they feel like a trendy pick. They have talent. I think they have the ability to be a giant killer. They have just the way they control possessions, the talent, and I think their ability actually to make mid-range jumpers, as crazy as that sounds. They're a pretty good mid-range jump shooting team, and you're not going to get high-quality shots against a really good defense, a long defense like Clemson, Kai. And Clemson without Dylan Hunter, their guards are a little bit thin as well. They basically have 2, and if one doesn't play well, I don't know. Maybe Wade dials up some sort of schematic defensive curveballs here. Very interesting chess match coaching-wise. I think this will be one of my more interesting games to watch, even though it probably won't be a crazy high-scoring game.
Yeah, this one's tough for me. Will Wade, alum of Clemson, I believe. So
Clemson,
little
good Paul. Yep.
Intrigue there. McNeese lost by 8 to Alabama and 3 to Mississippi State. This team really can compete with power competition. I worry that Clemson just has an enormous size edge, though. Like Sheff and Locken are going to be a huge problem for McNeese. McNeese is on the same playing field in terms of athlete with most of these guys. Like Quadir Copeland is a real power conference player. Garcia, Shoemate, these guys are athletic and very, very good. But I don't know if McNeese can keep Clemson off the glass. Shefflin is amazing, and Locken is again a stretch five, and also a guy that can score in the post. And I don't love the ISO nature of McNeese's offense. They need to score in transition in the open floor because rebounding the ball is going to be very hard against this Clemson team. 7 is a toss-up for me, Jim. On one hand, I lean Clemson. McNeese, I know they can compete with power teams, but I think Clemson has the edge in the matchup. Maybe it's a Dylan Hunter injury that sends me towards McNeese, but I am undecided on a side right now.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Clemson. I don't think I will bet the side in this game. I just don't have a great feel for one of them covering the spread or McNeese really hanging close. I like the under. I think this game is so slow. Both teams are bottom 20 in defensive possession length. Clemson is number 2 or I guess number 363. They just elongate everything. They force you to use the whole shot clock. They press just to slow you down. They don't even try to turn you over. They're just like making you use the shot clock. I think that's going to be tough for McNeese, who is not an overly patient offense. They got a lot of guys that want to get shots up, a lot of guys that had high usage at their prior school. Maybe on this kind of a stage, they want to show out a little bit. And Clemson's just a team of adults. They were it all season. Every time it seemed like they were in a bad travel spot or against a team that had a home run need to win, Clemson would just calmly take care of business. I think they kind of do here. I don't know what happens in late game with like free throw stuff. So again, not a side, but under I think is just going to be like a 60 to 55, 60 to 53 type game.
I agree. It's a tough one to handicap there. All right, we moved to Purdue versus High Point. Shocking amount of High Point love, interest. I guess it's because Purdue hasn't guarded their shadows in a few weeks, Jim. And that's where I
High
think
Point's offense is sexy.
It is. It is. Alan Huss will be getting a bag at a bigger location soon. Although High Point's got plenty of money flowing in there, maybe they just keep him forever with the funds
East.
that they have. Yes, exactly.
Why not?
Jim, I don't know, man. This Purdue defense, I know High Point's not like Big Ten talented, but they're not too far off. And the way they're playing right now, I think this game is super high scoring. How many stops does High Point get? How does High Point get enough stops over 40 minutes? That is the question. I think they might get enough just because Purdue's youth, maybe some self-inflicted dumb shots, a couple errant turnovers. Even though this game's going to probably play too fast for the typical the dog to not want to get into track meet with the faster team. I can see this game getting a little bit helter-skelter, but actually playing into High Point's advantage, if that makes any sense to you, Jim.
No, not really. No, I'm just kidding. The stops thing is the biggest. Like, I have no idea how High Point stops them. Their biggest struggle this year was with playmaking guards, like lead guards that can handle a pick and roll when Bodo's in drop coverage. And like Braden Smith is probably the best point guard in the country against drop coverage, like pulling up at the elbow, or if you start to try to help off a wing, he's going to hit the shooter right in the hands for a wide open 3. And I don't think they can stop Trey Kaufman-Renn in the post. Like Bodo doesn't grade out that well as a post defender. They commit fouls. This is going to be a efficiency bonanza, Kai. On the other side, though, High Point does play downhill. Like Jiffa gets to the rim, Demarion Williams gets to the rim, Bodo's all over the offensive glass. I think they can take advantage of that really bad interior defense of Purdue. They have no shot blocking. They're bottom 15 in the country in 2-point percentage defense. High Point will score there. I've already bet the over. I'm sure people already got that from my explanation as I go on here. On a side, I kind of think Purdue will pull away and put down the cute offense that can't get stops. I typically have had bad experiences betting those kind of underdogs, but I don't lean that way that hard. It's more an over game for me.
I want to like High Point, but I can't. They've played one top 100 team this season. North Texas, they won. They've played one power team in the last 2 years. It's Georgia. They lost last year. On paper,
they shot 22% inside the arc against Georgia.
Yeah, on paper their talent's terrific. The eye test, like Williams, Jiffa, Hamilton, Johnson, Bodo. These guys are really good. They can score on Purdue. Purdue's, you mentioned for Haslametrics, Purdue's like 356th in rim defense. It's not great. And High Point can get second chances. Their guards are super dynamic. They're killers. A couple killers with Williams and Jiffa. I just don't see how High Point stops them. I think TKR is going to get Bodo in foul trouble. Jim mentioned Braden Smith. He's not going to be bothered at all. The Boilers' attack is methodical. It's going to slice and dice. I hope this one keeps falling, frankly. I hope High Point keeps taking money. I think it's going to be a good opportunity to back Purdue at a cheap price, like 8 or below. Boilers will be my take.
I just can't believe how deep High Point is. Like how they have this
Very
many
deep.
bodies. Like, they had some major injuries to start the year. It's why they sort of kind of fell under the radar after having all of that hype coming into this season. A lot like Grand Canyon, right? A couple key injuries. They had all the hype coming into this year, brought dudes back, and now they're kind of starting to get that groove at the right time. And I like that they're older than Purdue. Like, it's objectively an older team. So just food for thought there. And we go to Milwaukee now. Jim, your backyard. Illinois against the Pig winner, Xavier, Texas. Real quick, Kai, the Pig. I already sent out my nuclear whale missile play to all my subscribers. My underground tout network is fruitful. No, I did lay it with Xavier. Kept it real simple. I think it's a big coaching mismatch. I'm probably discounting Texas' talent, probably discounting the way they've played at times recently, especially against big games. 7Q1 wins. Yes, they've played well against big competition. This is not the matchup I think they play well on. I think the veteran Xavier guards, especially your boy Conwell, shows out. Fremantle plays better. I think they get the dub here. So I did lay it 3 or 2.5, 3, whatever it is now, with the X-Men.
Yeah, well, first of all, how fun is it that we get Ryan Conwell, Julian Larry, and Jason Kent in a tournament game? And ironic also. And Robbie
Shame
Vila
on the Texas two-step. Shame on those two. They should be in St. Louis with the boys.
Yeah. Also, these teams are 43 and 44 in KenPom. They're right next to each other. Xavier, the wins bother me, Matthew. 1 win against KenPom top 30, 3 against top 50, and Texas has 4 top 20 wins, and another 2 against top 40 competition. That's tough. Look, I'm going to take Xavier. I took Xavier. They're the better shooting team. I think they're going to live the line. Number 1 free throw attempt rate in the Big East. Texas dead last in the Big 12 in free throw attempt rate allowed. Both teams are old. Both teams have a ton of size, multi-positionality. I'll take the better shooting team in this game, Jim. And I'll take Ryan Conwell against Trey Johnson, going face-to-face, back and forth. Give me Conwell, give me Sean Miller. I'm also on Xavier.
Yeah, I took Xavier as well. These guys hit the reasons. I'm going to just do a quick fast forward to this sucks for Illinois. They got a tough draw here.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
All right, we play drop coverage and encourage you to take mid-range shots. Oh, we have like 2 of the best dribble jumper teams in the entire bracket with like Johnson, Pope, Tremont Mark for Texas. Then you have Conwell, McKnight, Maddox, Foster for Xavier. I think that's a really unfortunate draw for Illinois. And we know the records of teams that play in the first 4, like 1 wins every single year, gets out of that bracket. I think that's going to be tough for Illinois because like Illinois is not a tough team to scout. Like, you know exactly what they're going to do. It's ball screens over and over. They started to play through Riley a little bit more, not just KJ, but they don't hit shots that well. And then defensively, you know exactly what they're going to look like, what shots are going to be available. So I don't think there's a huge disadvantage for Xavier in Texas playing 2 days before. I will probably pick the winner over Illinois, even though I thought Illinois is going to correct up. I just think they got a bad draw here.
Agree on that point. And I like Illinois just to make it. I think Illinois is going to really. I think they're playing on the second weekend here. No further thoughts on the Pig.
No further thoughts on the Pig for me, Matthew. No.
All right. Well, let's move along then. Kentucky, Troy. A game I don't talk about a lot because I like Troy in this matchup. It's also just a fun handicapping schematic matchup. Scott Cross, Sunbelt champs, Tate and Conraway, a deep, kind of a team of the faceless men. I feel like they don't really have a star. They're all just kind of very athletic. They're gritty. They're opportunistic in transition. They can also execute in the half court. Cross will play multiple types of defenses. He'll work in zone, man. Like, he's always pushing buttons. And I think it's Kentucky. You're going to have to push all the buttons because they got talent. They got speed that come at you in waves. This Kentucky team, I've sort of said the same thing about some of the other SEC teams, Kai. I just don't know if they have that same juice, even though Butler is going to be back and playing and apparently healthy-ish. I just don't think Butler is going to be 100% no matter how deep Kentucky plays this year. I think he's kind of like at a 70% shell of himself. Without Jackson Robinson, again, a guard short, this team feels like. And against Troy, who has some real depth in the backcourt, that's concerning because they're not a team that's built to punish you at the rim, which is where I think Troy struggles, nor are they a team that really pressures you and turns you over defensively, which is where I've seen Troy struggle this year as well. So I think Troy has a lot of good matchup advantages here from just a checklist perspective.
Yeah, Kentucky's offense just kind of scares me, especially with Butler back. They shoot the crap out of the ball. They're deadly in transition. I think Troy's really good too. I think Conaway rocks. I just think they might be overmatched. Their go-to is the glass, offensive rebounding. Kentucky's an excellent rebounding team, and they're huge. I think that's a problem. I think Troy is a great transition defense team. You know they're going to throw out a press, cross like some 1-3-1 looks. He'll throw those at Kentucky. That might make them hesitate a little bit, Jim, in the first half maybe. I just think ultimately Kentucky has too much firepower and stretches this game out over a full 40 minutes. So I lean towards Kentucky. The spread's like 10. That's borderline, but I lean towards the Wildcats.
Yeah, the Butler thing was killer. I really liked Troy until I saw him back in there, and if he's going to be playing, I was, seeing this like, oh, Troy team with an awesome, arguably one of the best on-ball defenders, pilfer guys, and Connor Way against a team that doesn't have any point guards. And then like Troy's biggest weaknesses are they cough the ball up a ton. They are really loose with it, and Kentucky doesn't play any pressure. It's really conservative drop coverage stuff. They are sitting inside the arc and letting you do your thing. So that didn't take advantage of that. And then Troy's a bad defensive rebounding team. Well, Kentucky's not attacking the offensive glass much. It's basically a one-man band with Amari Williams going after it. So all that was like, Troy, this is perfect for them. They're not going to get punished for what they're bad at. But with Butler back in there, they won't be able to force as many turnovers, not going to have the same shot volume edge. And with that, it soured a little bit on Troy. I'm going to bet Troy. It's come down a bit, but it's not a home run play anymore with Butler back in there.
It's a shame, Jim. The brothers Rigsby, Tate Conway was the star of the championship. I think the brothers Rigsby, whether Miles or Marcus, is going to have a big game here.
I mean, you could make a case that other than Owe, Troy's more athletic.
I think it's very close on the perimeter,
Okay.
especially.
Yeah.
Jackson Fields is a pretty good athlete too. He's been banging home threes. The Arkansas game concerns me, right? Arkansas, like it kind of looked like, okay, there's a gap in talent here. You could see the same thing with Kentucky, certainly, but I just think the styles are a little different, though. I think Arkansas' style is actually better than Kentucky. All right, Kai, we're going to go to Lexington, fittingly, where Kentucky's not playing, but UCLA will play against Utah State. I think I have an against the grain take and liking the Aggies, who people have completely written off for dead because everyone apparently solved their zone in the Mountain West. They've been kind of limping to the finish line after their awesome start. I think they worked UCLA's very, very spotty offense. I do not like UCLA's guards. I do not like them to solve the zone. If they get it to their forwards and play through them, that's a huge advantage, obviously. But the UCLA backcourt has bothered me all year. I'll quote Cronin. He said it multiple times. When we get good guard play, we're really good. When we don't, we're scary, not good. So I just think that's where the backcourt here could be exposed. It's a very tricky type of matchup.
I'm with you. Mountain West performance aside, I think their zone gives UCLA a lot of trouble. It's funky. The Bruins are not a great shooting team. I think Bilodeau is a huge problem for Utah State. So you're right. If he gets it in the crux, the nooks and crannies of the zone,
the bowels of that zone,
gonna destroy it. But I do think Utah State is going to force turnovers. Their guards are all experienced. They're all big. Their offense is crisp. They move the ball extremely well. They get to the rim. They do it with cuts and passing, very up tempo. UCLA keeps you away from the rim. They force long possessions. Jim, maybe the total for me, low scoring. Both teams force incredibly long possessions. UCLA doesn't want to run. Utah State wants UCLA to take their time. Toss up for me a little bit. Lean towards Utah State, though, and the under.
Yeah, this is one where I'm having to confront my I want to fade the Mountain West situation because I do think the matchup sets up much better for Utah State. UCLA has barely seen any zone in the Big Ten, only 6% of possessions, and that's like a zonable team to me. They've got a couple of guys that can make shots, but they're low volume. They really don't want to fire away from deep. They live in the mid range. And against Matt, you mentioned it, like teams saw them saying solved in air quotes the zone, but they'd seen it multiple times. UCLA, this is like a brand new matchup-y, funky thing for them. I would say that's advantage Utah State. And to Kai's point to the under also, Like I think they're going to take a while to figure it out. Like long possessions against the zone early. Like how do we solve this? A couple of bad shots. I mean, maybe it's like 11-10 after 11 minutes, and you live bet the over when they start to figure it out. But I think it takes away the rim, which is where UCLA is most effective. I don't think Ade Mata is going to have a big game unless he really gets after the offensive glass. Bilodeau's an issue. Lean Utah State. Got to see if I'm going to bite the bullet and bet a Mountain West team here, Matthew, or if I'm going to just continue the auto fade of that league.
I will say UCLA's zone metrics are actually pretty good this year, but I think that's skewed by some poor competition. It's a team that's under Cronin. They typically do share the ball pretty well, but again, just these guards, Mac and Andrews. I know we went back and forth on who should we rank, who should we not rank in our top 100 players. Like I don't love either of those two guys, frankly. And your boy Sky Clark, Kai, who knows what he might do.
Not me.
All right, last game in this region, Rocky Top Tennessee against the Wofford Terriers. Some fun, kind of obvious matchup, historical angles here. Rick Barnes laying a lot of number against a team that can slow it down, execute, maybe grind it out. Does this Tennessee offense go completely awry and Tennessee's up 50-49, Kai, with 2 to play, and everyone's like, Rick Barnes in the tournament stinks? Or is this a men versus the boys and the poor little Terriers who are largely unathletic and preyed on a very, I think, exploitable SoCon tournament? Do they get completely out-athleted and outmanned in this one?
I lean towards the latter, Matthew. Wofford's tough, but I think Tennessee pounds them. Duke beat this team by 51 points. 51 points. Wofford can fight on the glass, but they can't shoot. Sorry, they can shoot and they can fight on the glass, but Tennessee's going to physically overwhelm them. 2 of the 3 last 3 years, Tennessee's first-round games, won by 34. Struggled with Louisiana, surprisingly, won by 3, won by 32. Tennessee blows teams out. They're built to do it. So minus 19, I will be looking at the Vols.
Yeah, there's like some variance to this where Wofford's going to take a bunch of threes and maybe they're able to make them. These two teams played last year and it's like the same Wofford roster. So they have a little familiarity. They actually battled really well on the glass, like almost to a draw against the Vols, which is really impressive given the athletic disadvantages.
10 of 37. They actually didn't make any shot. The shot quality scored in that game, Jim, was like really close. So it's a good point.
Yeah, and I just think it's kind of a nice underdog formula for Wofford to slow down, get some high variance into the game by taking threes. So I'd lean towards Wofford, but yeah, Kai, the demolition of Longwood 3 years ago, the demolition of St. Peter's last year, it does scare me. Wofford just might be a slightly better shooting team than those two squads.
They are. Matthew?
Just looking at Kyler Filowich's updated free throw percentage. He went 3 of 7 in his last game. That's pretty good.
Underhand.
I just don't think
I love that he switched to it. He's like not even that much better.
No.
Yeah, he went granny and was like, dang it. It's a bad exhibit for the, hey, all bad free throw shooters should go granny style. It's like, because if you do and you're not any better, then it just looks dumb and you feel like an idiot. So, but anyway, all jokes aside, he's a key piece to this, like kind of a meat house goatee type of interior big. I don't know how they're not gonna double him. I mean, Tennessee's gonna swallow him up, I would think.
The one other thing I'll say with the threes for Wofford is like they have to create threes, and that's going to be a problem. Like long possessions against Zakai Ziegler, Meshack, harassing them on the perimeter. They might just all their threes might be like heaves late in the shot clock and not actually good shots. And Tennessee will probably produce better ones on the other end.
Who is winning this Midwest Madness, Kai? Indy will be the stage.
Yeah. I've picked Houston to win the title the last 2 years. I think Gonzaga is coming out of this bracket.
What?
The Bulldogs of Gonzaga. Yeah, I'm going to take them over. Boy, choosing a team from the bottom half is not easy. I am almost tempted to go with the winner of Texas Xavier, which would be a little bit maybe too crazy, but I'll go with Tennessee. So Gonzaga over Tennessee in the Elite Eight.
I'm going Houston over Tennessee. People will probably have figured out that's 1/2, 1/3, 1/2 for me. I think it's going to be a super chalky year. It's just what I sometimes take more risks, and it's not the year for me to do it. As long as Jalen Roberts isn't like never going to play again, I think Houston's going to be fine through this region. And my God, that would be a war. Tennessee versus Houston in a regional final. You might get like 54-50 with 3 guys leaving on stretchers, but Cougars for me.
Cougars as well against Illinois. I gave Illinois a good hard look. Morris Johnson came back 2 games. He played a full workload last game. They got smashed. I think there's that Illinois. Whoa, holy crap, Illinois! I think that's still there. Don't forget about that, folks. That still is that lingers. Whether it shows out in this tournament, I don't know, but
I
it's
think it
there.
can only show up for like 1 or 2 games at a time. Like it's not a 4-game
It's
thing.
not a 5-gamer. Yeah, recipe.
Yeah.
Very fair. Hey, we said this preseason. You should listen to ourselves. Anyway, that concludes our Midwest takes. To the west we go, Jimbo. San Francisco.
Yes, let's head out to the San Francisco region. But before we do, my man Kai is going to give a shout out to Pool Genius, a new sponsor for us here in March.
Want to win your March Madness bracket pool this year? That's where Pool Genius comes in. Their subscribers win 3 times more often than expected, racking up over $2.5 million in prizes since 2017. Pool Genius has built the best bracket picking technology on the planet, refined over 20 years by data scientists. It creates perfectly optimized brackets that factor in your pool size and scoring. Whether you're in a small office pool or a huge contest with upset bonuses, Pool Genius knows exactly when to play it safe and when to take calculated risks. That's why 52% of Pool Genius users win a bracket pool every single year. If you're serious about winning, click the link in the description. Get the Pool Genius Bracket Optimizer, your unfair March Madness advantage. Pool Genius. Check it out.
Well done, Mr. McEwen. All right, let's talk the darling of the college basketball world, the Florida Gators. Oh my God, they won the SEC Invitational rather impressively too. Not really overly tested. They ran Alabama out and then beat Tennessee kind of comfortably in the final 2 minutes, about a 10-point margin. They get Norfolk State, Matthew, a team that has typically been destroyed when it plays up. I love Robert Jones, great coach, but they are all rim all the time on offense. And good luck against Chinyalu and Condon and Handlogton and Hauk over and over again. I think Norfolk really struggles to score. Florida can name their number. That's a tough one to bet because Florida can decide to win by 40 or 25.
Yeah, kind of just reminds me of the North Carolina versus Texas Southern matchup, circa 2000 and
Oh, when they just owned the offensive glass. I know exactly
2000
what you're talking about.
and I can't find it. 20 maybe 17.
What?
I know. I
17.
remember the exact matchup you're talking about. It was like the
2017,
number 1
yes.
offensive rebounding
Kennedy
team
meets
against the worst.
Isaiah Hicks, Justin Jackson
Oh, yeah,
against
love
Texas
Won money on
Southern,
that
and I think this one feels like that. Just like insanely awesome front line, SWAC team that can't compete. What's going to happen? The obvious thing happened. I think Florida wins by 40.
Yeah.
Norfolk's been a 16 twice. They recently lost by 43 to Gonzaga, 36 to Baylor. Sorry, go ahead, Kai.
No, I'm saying Florida is number 2 in KenPom now. They're suddenly everyone's title pick, which sucks because we were on that bandwagon before. But when the office friends start naming Florida as the title winner, it's cat's out of the bag. But they just handle Mizzou, Alabama, Tennessee in succession in the SEC tournament. They're super deep. It's a perfectly built roster. Once again, Todd Golden's the coach of the year in the entire country, in my opinion. Norfolk cannot shoot. Good luck scoring against Florida. Like Jim said, Florida's top 6 in the country in rim field goal percentage allowed. 28 points is massive, but I think it's deserved. I don't think Florida's going to sleepwalk here either. I think they're going to take care of business. So I would lay it with Florida, minus 28.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Kai. It kind of bolted me. Like, Todd Golden still doesn't want a tournament game. I don't think he's going to let his guys casually stroll through his potential first NCAA tournament win ever. I like that. That encourages me to lay it.
Good.
Okay, next game, 8 versus 9. Everybody's excited about old UConn. Going to potentially make a run here. This team's been great in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years, covered every single game en route to 2 national titles. They get Oklahoma, who went a measly 6-12 in the SEC. Kai, the Huskies are going to smoke them, right? Laying 4 points. It's got to be all UConn.
I'll tell you what, Jim. Every single year, there is a clear 8-9 pick. And anecdotally, that loses a lot. Oklahoma can surprise here. UConn has arguably the best staff in basketball, A-plus game planners. But Porter Moser's not too bad himself. I just don't see how Oklahoma really stops UConn. I think UConn kind of kills them inside. They take good shots. They're hyper efficient, and the Sooners just lack that rim protection that I think is super important against UConn. But Oklahoma might live at the line. Samson Johnson's going to get in foul trouble. Terrace Reed might. Giara, he's tasked with locking up Fears. That's a great battle at the point of attack. UConn's not great this year, Matthew, in stopping pick and roll. That's kind of Oklahoma's bread and butter this season, especially with Fears. He's been excellent. I kind of think 4.5 is a touch high. If it gets 5 or 5.5, I'm looking at Oklahoma against the spread. I will pick UConn to advance my bracket. But on the spread, I think it's a pretty close game. OU is a really good team. They didn't lose a game in non-con. They played some good teams.
I agree. I kind of lean toward OU. I was worried about the whole Sam Godwin injury, but I mean, Mo Wag looked really good when he was out. Coming down the Wagi, excuse me. More of a, I'd say more physical, more defensive oriented, right? Where Godwin's more of an offensive maestro. Wagi, more defensive, but that's who you need to counter Terrace Reed. I'll say it again. Terrace Reed can be an absolute takeover type of guy for UConn. If you have no matchup for him, you have no chance. That's the matchup in this game. If UConn can find, like, if they can prey on OU's interior, especially if Godwin can't play, I think he's still day to day. I think UConn could have an edge here, but I think everything else here sort of leans toward OU. I think it's the coaching mismatch that UConn typically has. I don't know if that exists here with this team. And as dynamic as those guards can be for the Sooners, with how leaky the perimeter D has been at times for UConn, I kind of like the Sooners here, guys, a little bit.
Yep, I bet Oklahoma and the over already. I think both teams have such easy routes to points. Like Oklahoma's off-ball defense can get lazy. Fears can like get caught looking up into the clouds. Just kind of a
he drives
young
Moser up a
point guard.
wall. You can see Moser just losing his hair half the time with Fears.
And like who runs better off-ball action than UConn? Like they're going to like really abuse him and that type of stuff. Get open shots, get guys going downhill to the rim. But on the other end, yes, UConn can't keep guards in front. Solo ball's a turnstile. Aiden Mahaney, whenever he's out there, they're just gonna be like, oh, hey, that one-on-one with him. Just clear out and go at him. Fears getting downhill. UConn fouls a ton. Oklahoma gets to the line a ton. They're going to take a ton of free throws here. I think it's a super efficient game. And man, Oklahoma on neutral floors beat Providence, Arizona, Louisville, Oklahoma State, Michigan, Georgia, lost by 1 to Kentucky. Like they've been really good on neutral courts from start to finish. I think they are right there with UConn. Probably will pick UConn to advance, but I think this is like legitimately a true coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, Moser hasn't been in the tournament since he went to a Sweet 16 and went to a Final Four. So, like, I think his neutral success has, like, also NCAA tournament precedence with 2 pretty damn impressive runs, beating the number 1 overall seed, and then obviously the Final Four was crazy. So, good coach.
All right, to the 5-12, where the 12 is favored. Colorado State, the favorite over Memphis. I see why it is like this based on where these teams are rated analytically, but Kai, it is because Memphis is a reverse computer tricker. They suck as a big favorite. Q3, Q4 games, they're awful, and it makes them look bad in these ratings. I'm throwing those games out. This is not a Q3 or Q4 game. This is an NCAA tournament game where Memphis is going to be locked in against a equal or roughly equal competitor. I think Memphis should be favored. This is one of my favorite bets of the first round. Despite how well Colorado State is playing, plus 2.5 with Memphis, I think they win and prove that, hey, you can take the underdog 5 seed.
Same, Jim. I agree. Memphis smash. It's one of my favorite bets as well. Yeah, dogs to the 12 seed. That tells you that the seed is wrong. They should not be a 5. They don't have the metrics. They should have been a 7 or 8. But it doesn't matter. They're still a better team, in my opinion, than Colorado State, who, by the way, is number 1 and has the metrics momentum ranking, if you're into that sort of thing. But Memphis is more athletic, more talented. Tyrese Hunter, his status does matter in this game. I still think Memphis beats them. Colorado State, 1 win this season against a top 50 team. 1. Memphis has plenty. Colorado State's offense is gorgeous. I love Medved. I'd love Medved to get a power job. He might. He runs great motion. Nick Clifford's a stud. But again, the level of athlete on Memphis is too much. Who the heck is guarding Haggerty? Who is guarding Dane Danger? Nobody on Colorado State is guarding either of those guys. Memphis, plus 2.5 for me.
I think the Rams are a little more athletic than you're getting. Especially with, how Evans has played. And I mean, Clifford's a freak athlete, but he's only one guy, right? You can't clone him and all of a sudden deploy him. But if there's no Tyrese Hunter, you can suddenly kind of shift your focus toward Haggerty, take him away. Maybe you don't want to burn Clifford on him. But yeah, I mean, everyone in the AAC tried to do that. I love Medved. I know the Mountain West thing in the tournament's been real, but I think the momentum is more real. And every bone and fiber in me think Colorado State just keeps it rolling with how they've been playing. But they're favored in this game? Like, what? That's where I'm just like, I can't get there with that. And I don't like the vibes of coach already sort of a pencil signature on potential new job. How does that play in? I don't know. So a lot of weird things here. And also Memphis, I mean, for a team that's been sort of bad as a favorite, they went to San
Yeah.
Francisco
Love having them
and
as a
won.
dog.
And then they went to the island and played like they're good. Like they've always played well, sort of like under their back against the wall under Penny. That's kind of been their MO. So I one of the more fascinating matchups of the first round for sure. Could go either way here.
Yeah, and Penny really tested them in the non-con. They played a crazy schedule, which I think helps when they're played Sunday and now have to go across the country. At
To
least they play
Seattle. Yep.
Friday in Seattle, but I think that travel will not spook them as much for a team that's been all the way to the island. Matt, to your point, yeah, Colorado State's bigs are mobile. Like Memba and Crocker Johnson can move. That's part of why they're like a great defensive shell because they can switch, keep you on the perimeter. But I think Haggerty can take advantage of mismatches in the switches. Memphis for me, even without Hunter, maybe less of a smash without Hunter, but it's definitely something I like.
Other thing here too, Dane Danger not 100%. I think he's nursing two injuries now. I don't think either of them are severe at this point, but I think he had
Man,
he had a
he
foot
played
and a shoulder.
He looked
played
pretty good
77
against
minutes in the
UAB.
semifinal. Yeah, he was awesome against UAB, like
Yeah, he
bringing the
looked great
ball up the
actually.
floor.
I think Yaxel was hurt too. Both digs were hurt, but you couldn't tell because Danger's has been all. The Dancing Bear's been terrific. Kai, great take by us and others who were high on the Danger man because he's been dominant in that league.
Yeah, okay. The other Seattle matchup, the 4 versus 13, Maryland, the Crab 5 taking on Grand Canyon and their considerable depth. Tyon Grant Foster looked like himself in the WAC tournament. That's big time for the Antelopes. They got the win last year in the 5-12 game over St. Mary's. Now they're getting double digits, Matthew, against the Crab 5. Is there enough athleticism for Maryland to hang around, or excuse me, for Grand Canyon to hang around? I think this is a little bit too many points for a team with a really high ceiling in the Antelopes.
I agree. I mentioned it with High Point. I think we've forgotten how good this team was supposed to be, and we've seen evidence that they're getting back to that. Grant Foster back is obviously huge. I just think Grant Foster is he can win you a game and he can lose you a game as well. He can certainly take some dumb shots, and offensively, doesn't look all that pretty for GCU. But I think they have good depth, and against Maryland, who is not deep, maybe they pressure, maybe they bother the ball handlers, but Maryland's guards have been too good this year, man, with Gillespie. I think Maryland's a safe winner here. I don't know if I want to lay 10, but this is not an upset look for me, Kai. I thought about it, but I just don't think so. Crab 5 advance here.
Not straight up. I totally agree. Terps are really good. Freaky front line. Gillespie's a stud. And they have great shooting wings, which is something they didn't have last year. Grand Canyon's old, top-tier talent in TGF. Lots of size. It's a power mid-major. For sure, they won a game last year, but they're going to have a super tough time scoring, in my opinion. Maryland doesn't foul. They defend the rim. And that's a problem for Grand Canyon. Maryland's a much better shooting team. I think Grand Canyon can give them a fight, but I just think they're much less physical inside, and that's a huge problem. I think the Terps eventually win this game. Doubles, it's a lot of points. I would probably look to Grand Canyon on the side from a spread perspective, Jim, but I do expect Maryland to win by a few possessions, 2 or 3 possessions.
Yep, I'm holding hands with you boys. Advancing Maryland, I think it's going to be closer than that, though. The whistle's going to be huge. Kai, you mentioned Maryland doesn't foul. Grand Canyon's going to bombard the rim and try to get fouls on that very lack of depth team. So if the whistle's tight and calling a bunch, then maybe that's edge Grand Canyon. Keep an eye on that early, all you live bettors. All right, we now move to the game where all of our buddies are probably waiting, our Mizzou pals. How do they feel about this game? Missouri and Drake coming to you in the 6 versus 11 matchup. Kai, we'll go to you first here. The massive stylistic clash, probably a coaching edge for the underdog and the team playing slowly. Is it easier to slow a team down than speed them up? That's the question here. Missouri Drake, what do you got?
This is not the 11 seed the Missouri Tigers wanted to see, in my opinion. Drake's discipline and ball control is scary to me. They take the air out of the ball. They're super smart. They rebound. They shoot. They smoked Vanderbilt earlier this season. And Ben McCollum could be a top 5 coach in the country. He is one of the best minds in college basketball. Having said that, Mizzou's way more athletic. Mark Mitchell's going to be a huge problem for this team. Maniau is the only guy that can somewhat hold up against Mitchell. And he's a little bit foul prone. He can absolutely get in foul trouble against a Missouri team that is among the best in the country at getting the free throw line. You really need Ant Robinson and Tony Perkins to harass their ball handlers. Bennett Sturts cannot be allowed to just handle the ball up front without any pressure. He is a stud, and he's a terrific shooter, and he's very smart. But you can pressure him, and you can force turnovers against Drake. That's what they need to do. I'm concerned, Matthew, about the glass. Drake could own it. They're a really good rebounding team, but Mizzou should force enough turnovers to hopefully combat that. Having said that, Drake +6 is a pretty confident bet for me. I've taken Drake 6.5 already. But go Tigers. I think they end up winning this game, but it's a scary one.
I think it's the first 6 minutes are critical. I think if Drake can get a lead, huge game flow, they can control that. I was looking at Drake's 3 losses this year. They didn't trail, or I'm sorry, the teams that beat them, Bradley, Illinois, Chicago, and there's one other loss I think in there. Murray, I think, got them. You have to get out ahead of them. You cannot fall behind. You cannot let them yo-yo you, because if you're down 7 points in the second half, you have to guard Bennett Sturts for 27 seconds. It's just the most frustrating feeling in the world. You have to come out hot. So Mizzou needs to get like Dennis Gates' bag of set plays. The shooters get unload the ammunition early, get up, and then let your talent extend. Make them catch you. Don't try and catch them. I think that's the game flow's future.
Yeah, Drake is not a game chaser. They want to be in front, dictating everything. And you mentioned guarding Bennett Sturts for 27 seconds. Well, then he throws up a jumper. They get the offensive rebound. And you have to guard him for 19 more. And then you go down on offense, and you're like, I am so sick of playing defense. Give me the ball. I'm getting a shot up. 6 seconds later, you're guarding Bennett Sturts for 27 seconds again. That's what really scares me, is if you get frustrated with how patient they are. And Kai, they have the longest average possession length in a decade per Ken Palm. They are slow, all time. So if you get frustrated with that, it's really going to take you out of your game. Mizzou can try to speed them up. Vanderbilt forced 20 turnovers against the same Drake team. That at least can maybe generate some offense going the other way. But the interesting thing with Drake, they turn it over a decent amount, but it's all non-steals. It's shot clock violations and stepping out of bounds and stuff. It's not stuff where you get a layup going the other way. So maybe that hurts Mizzou too in generating transition. Definitely scared of the offensive glass. As I mentioned, Drake had over 50% of their misses against Vanderbilt's front line, and Mizzou's is not much more secure on the defensive glass. But offensively, there are some positives. Mizzou can destroy them one-on-one. Some of the matchups that they can pinpoint and isolate against. Mitchell could foul out 4 different guys in this game. Yes. Drake doesn't have much depth. Robinson downhill, Perkins downhill. Bates they let the athletes take over. Yes, there's enough there for Mizzou could win by 15. You're like, oh yeah, this is the most athletic team Drake's played all season. More than Vandy, more than K-State. So I think I'm kind of on the same boat with Kai. Maybe it's an emotional hedge where I'm leaning Drake, but I do think Mizzou wins. Okay, next game, the 3:14, Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. Deep loaded Texas Tech team appears to be healthy. Matthew McMillan and Darian Williams are going to play after sitting out their last game. Seemingly healthy enough. They're not 50%, just forcing it out there. UNC Wilmington, tough team, huge team. They play through the post at a top 10 rate nationally because they've got 2 centers that can score in there. Texas Tech's got enough beef inside, though, with Federico, with Toppin, with Williams. With Texas Tech healthy, I kind of lean their way, despite respecting the heck out of the Seahawks as a tough underdog.
Yeah, they're well coached. I love Donovan Newby, just kind of an older, grittier gamer type point guard. But I just think this team is not a typical Siddle or Keats Wilmington team where we're helter skelter going to turn you over, pressure you, be different. They've kind of vanillaed out this year because they've had to cater to Obioha, who's been a beast, dominated this guy, been a absolute man-child, 7 foot 290. But I don't think he's going to dominate Texas Tech. I do worry about the injuries, though, Jim. I know they're going to play. McCaslin didn't seem overly exuberantly confident that they're going to be awesome and 100%, and they get hurt every other game. I do worry that maybe there's a bad injury or two in game. Maybe he gets a little tired of too close for comfort. But assuming all hands are on deck and operating on all cylinders, I think Tech wins by 20 easily. I'm just not sure I'm trusting the health of this team, which has kind of had it's the second year in a row they've had key pieces continuously not healthy. It's just been a drag on their upside, which we're also excited about.
Yeah, Wilmington's played one team around Texas Tech's level this year. It was Kansas. They lost by 18 in Lawrence. I'm not really going to fault them much for that. Not a good shooting team. That's a problem against Texas Tech's defense, which Grant McCaslin, he can pack it in. They hit the boards hard. They attack the rim. They're an old team. They're well coached. They play through the post at one of the highest rates in the country. Texas Tech kind of eats the paint in the post for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's what they do. Wilmington will throw out a press. They'll throw out zone looks. I think it's really hard to turn the Raiders over. I think JT Toppin's going to be a huge problem for Wilmington. I think they'll find success in the pick and roll game. But I think Wilmington's kind of a tough team to blow out. So I am kind of on the fence on the side here. The Texas Tech matchup edges are pretty strong for me, but the number's pretty high as well. So probably a bet eventually on Tech, but again, tough team to blow out. Seahawks.
Yeah, agreed there. I kind of lean to the over. I think Texas Tech, like they're going to take a ton of threes. UNC Wilmington plays more of a shell. They let you go over the top, and they can really shoot. I mean, if McMillan, Walton, Anderson, Hawkins are knocking down shots, good luck. They could really roll over you, and they did that to some teams in the non-con. But I think UNC Wilmington can get to the line. Like Tech's a little vulnerable. They'll foul, and Obi-Oha will probably get Federico 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes, and maybe a little bit of a panic there. But Texas Tech to advance, I think they'll cover. Haven't bet the side, but I do think I like points. All right, the 7-10 game. Kansas, Arkansas, 2 national title winning coaches. Bill Self, John Calipari. The storylines are endless, Mr. McEwen. I have had a hard time handicapping this game, partially because Arkansas's rotation is real weird. We don't know if Ivisic is going to be healthy off his wrist injury. Boogie Fland is back in the mix after going through a full practice. Is that good? They were 0-5 in the SEC when he was in there. There's a lot of question marks with this game. What are you focusing on?
Well, you can't spell Arkansas without Kansas, Jim. That's a fact. Also, ironic that 2 of Mizzou's quote-unquote rivals, we don't see Arkansas as a rival for the record, but other people apparently do. Yeah, KU has negative momentum. They don't appear to have great chemistry. Arkansas has been playing better of late, but man, the Flan thing is concerning for me because Nelly Davis is the man on Arkansas. He needs to be the guy. He needs to be your leader. He needs to be running the offense. And if Flan's back in there, it's not going to happen. I just don't see a smooth transition happening. I don't see them coexisting very well. With them coming back in for a tournament game, I think it's a horrible idea. Now, Bill Self's been way better at Calipari at this point. Calipari is speaking nonsense in press conferences, making weird decisions in games.
But he's always done that. That's always been Calipari. It never makes sense.
He's been horrible coaching, in my opinion, the last couple of years. And I do like Arkansas's size with Big Z's injury weirdness aside. Adu throwing at Dickinson seems like a pretty good idea. But KU is a veteran team. They have a veteran point guard in March. You got to love that. Top 10 player in Dickinson. No matter what you think about him, he is. That's tough to bet against. You can't score in the paint against Kansas. You have to beat them in transition. I don't know. It's a total toss-up for me. I guess I lean KU, Matthew, but I don't really love laying points with Kansas. I don't really like Kansas. So, yeah, fence.
Harumph.
Both teams can
Yeah,
lose.
slightly. Yeah, this was actually I'm honestly like one of the least excited games. The least excited I am for any of the game. As much as like the coaching thing is cool, like on the court, the product I don't think will be like a good game, really.
No.
Ugly.
Right? It's just ugly.
It's going to be kind of up tempo, but I think I like the under. Like, well, how does either team score?
The market just I was they got bet up big time over. I don't know. I sometimes think Kansas actually needs to run to score, like when they try and do the Hunter Dickinson show in the half court. It doesn't always look great, especially when their shooters aren't making shots. Honestly, this is like the ultimate. I will legitimately probably flip a coin a few times and put this and pick my winner from that way. I think Kansas wins. I don't feel confident at all about that. However, I do think that either of these teams could be sort of a tough matchup for the Johnnies in the round 2 when it happens.
Man, that could be a mucky game. Kansas and Johnny's both wanting to run, but like neither one can shoot.
Yeah.
Like, just a bludgeon try to get to the rim. I don't love that. Yeah, I think there's matchup disadvantages for both offenses. Like Kai mentioned, you don't score in the paint against Kansas. They've top 10 rate keeping you away from the rim. Arkansas can't really shoot. Fland maybe helps that, but again, like he's a chucker, and if they use him as like a microwave guy, it takes touches away from other guys who are better. I think they need Ivasic as the pick and pop threat. And again, I have no idea what his deal is with the wrist. Like 8 minutes in that SEC tournament loss. Not a lot of knowledge out there. People are so focused on Thero and Bland. Ask about
Bland.
Ivasic too. He matters. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. All right, let's get to one matchup finally, or the final matchup that I have. Kai, we finally get to my first to 10, first to 15 special on the board.
Okay, nice.
It was Omaha against St. John's. Omaha can really shoot it. Shot 40% in conference play from deep. Granted, that's against Summit defenses, and now they play the best defense in the entire country. But I think that will take a second for the sticker shock to really hit. It'll play out over the course of the game. Matthew, also a live betting game where if they do hit some shots early, they get that first to 10, first to 15. You come in on St. John's and let the athleticism just completely overwhelm them.
Yeah, again, this is one where I said it's still when strength on strength, the lesser strength usually gets choked out pretty easily. Now, you pointed out some other more interesting nuances matchup wise. I do like that this team can really hit the glass. Like Omaha can protect their defensive glass pretty well. Now, I'm not sure how much that's skewed by playing Summit teams.
Yeah.
Like look at the Iowa State game. I think they got killed on the glass in that one.
Yeah.
The UNLV game, I think they got actually hurt pretty hard on the glass as well early on. Now, again, this team got better, and J.J. White was sort of a non-factor. I think he was hurt for much of the non-con, and he is maybe their most important player now. Like, look at his non-con versus conference splits. It's night and day. Again, helped by playing some defenders, Kai. Yeah, go.
He averaged 22 minutes a game, 8 points a game, 1.4 assist to turnover ratio. And then in league play, 31 minutes a game, 18 points a game, 2.7 assist to turnover ratio.
His assists were insane. I mean, he's like the catalyst, and they got Sutton out of state. So I don't know. I back and forth here, Kai. I just think it's, again, Johnny's win easily. Sometimes they can play with their food. Are they going to win by 30 or 20? I don't know, but I do think the Johnny's advance here. No Omaha magic. Trash cans are over.
I love this Omaha team, ultimate vibes team. They hung with Minnesota, but yeah, that Iowa State game, they lost by 32. And the one thing, I think the rebounding numbers, top 20 defensive rebounding team in the country, I think that's a lot of Summit. And the Johnnies don't care how good you are rebounding. They will out-rebound you. They're bigger, stronger, more athletic. They do what Omaha does, but they do it better. Omaha can shoot, but it's the best defense in the country. Markel Sutton is amazing. He's the Summit Player of the Year. How does he score against St. John's front line? I don't think he does, at least not efficiently. The Johnnies could rip their defense apart to shreds. They're going to smoke him in transition. Smoke him. I think it's kind of a blowout. A lot of two-seed blowouts, but I think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, the Omaha, like you look at their statistical profiles, like they're pretty good on the defensive glass. It's like, well, their two best defensive rebounders are a 6'8" wing and a 6'4" guard. Like, is that holding up against Zuby Ejiofor and Aaron Scott and St. John's crazy offensive rebounding? Yeah. So I don't think so. I think they get overwhelmed. Summit was the most efficient conference in the country. I said it already. Like, this is just a totally new animal for them. And they were bad in the non-con. Same thing we kind of said about Montana. Struggled there and then got into their league and it was like, oh, they look good. And maybe it's the J.J. White thing with him moving into the starting lineup, but it also could be the competition. So lean to St. John's. All right, guys, let's pick the region here and then send the people on their way. Kai, Florida is obviously the popular pick. Are you going with the Gators?
Gosh, Jim, I would love to just choose Mizzou and just get really crazy. I think it's going to be Florida, though, coming out of here. But guess who they're going to beat, Jim? The Missouri Tigers.
Who are they going to beat, Kai?
Missouri Tigers.
There you go.
Elite Eight Tigers. We fall short of our first Final Four. Florida over Mizzou.
Is this the best region, by the way?
Yes, by far. This is the best effing region. It's not even close. I'm pissed off Mizzou's in this region.
It just kind of hit me as I looked at the brackets. Yeah, it's
so
tough.
mad.
Like the three seeds everywhere else are like injured. Like Kentucky, Iowa State, very injured. Yeah. I guess Texas Tech kind of is too. What you got, Matt?
God, brutal. Yeah, Gators. I feel Florida too. The Florida St. John's game could be that could be good if that gets there. I'm gonna go Florida. But it's just like of all the regions to take the favorite, this feels like the worst one. But I do believe in Florida that much, and I think their matchup potential matchups down the road are actually favorable-ish. But God, even Maryland intrigues me. I think the Crab Five might be getting slept on. We'll see.
I think they could compete with that Florida team. Depth might overwhelm them, but I'm
Depth,
going to go
yeah,
with
that's where Florida
Texas
wins.
Tech over Florida here. I picked Texas Tech to the Final Four in the preseason. They're number 7 team in Ken Pom and a 3 seed. I'll ride with them here. I do very much believe in Florida. God, they're incredible to watch. I tweet about it basically every time I watch them play. But I'm going to ride with the team that I believed in early. Texas Tech, not go all 1 seeds in the Final Four. Good job, Jim. It's not all chalk. Title pick, Kai, real quick.
Duke. Duke's gonna win.
Duke, he says.
Boo.
Yeah,
Matthias?
Duke, Florida,
Duke.
I suppose. Yeah.
How does Jai Lucas's absence bother you? Also, hey, we should
No,
mention
because I don't
the
think
fact
he's a
that,
great coach, but
Quandis
we'll see.
White for Houston.
Is
so he,
coaching for Houston.
White,
No, he's staying
he's
with
coaching
Houston.
the whole rest of the way, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
He
he's
did
staying
his
with
like
Broward
intro
for
presser
Texas
today.
Tech.
So he went to the intro presser today for Louisiana. I think he goes back to prepping for
Yeah,
anyway.
because he cares about his current program that he helped build.
Hey, Jai's a traitor now. He's Benedict Arnold. I couldn't care less about him. He was a
I agree.
liability to our
Horrible.
scout.
It's
That's
a
what
weird
I'll say.
move.
That's what Duke
It's a
fans
weird
will say.
move. I totally agree. But,
Duke wins,
yeah,
Jim.
Duke. Duke.
Okay, I will go stubbornly go down with the ship that I rode in the preseason, guys. I picked Auburn over Houston. Screw it. I'm going Auburn over Houston again. Cougars get revenge in the Final Four for last year's Elite Eight or Sweet 16 loss, to Duke. Somehow Auburn rediscovers its joy. Chad Macon-Brazara keeps his head on for 6 games. That's probably the most unrealistic part of this prediction. But
Yes.
I mean, a month ago Auburn was the juggernaut, so I'll go back to the well there with the Tigers and see if they can pull it out for me. All right, that is it. That's our March Madness marathon. I've got to hop on another show because, folks, that's just what we do in this week leading
think I
up
do
to
as well.
the NCAA tournament. We hope you enjoyed this 2-hour March Madness marathon. It's our favorite episode of the year, as we mentioned. Next week, we'll get to coaching news and reviews and all that stuff. This was about the madness. We can't wait to watch it. We'll be out in Vegas. We hope you guys enjoy it as well. With that, signing off, spinny weekend. Cheers and enjoy the madness.